The time is now 6:33. Calling this meeting to session. We have present Councilmember Yarborough, Councilmember Rodriguez, Councilmember Mize, Councilmember Cornelison, and Mayor Pro Tem Pappenfuss. Quorum is present. Tonight's invocation will be given by Kinsey Ware, senior at Watershed of Godley. And then please rise for that, and then we'll be doing the Pledge of Allegiance after that.
All right, if we could all bow our heads. Dear Lord, I want to thank you for bringing everyone here safely and for the opportunity to be able to pray openly and in a public forum without fear of persecution. Lord, I ask you that you would give guidance and wisdom to the leaders of this community. I ask that you would be present in this meeting and that each person here would have the mind of Christ and would consider their words before speaking. Lord, we pray ultimately for your will to be done in this city and in our homes. I pray that we will trust in your plan, whatever it may be, and ask that you will bring unity, strength, and reliance on you in every area of our lives. Thank you for the watershed and for what it provides for its students and myself. May we keep our eyes on you and remember the sacrifice of your Son, Jesus Christ, and the price he paid for each of our sins. We love you and honor you tonight. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Thank you.
Next step is public input. We'll go in order of the sign up. First person is Bobby Fawcett. If I could get you to press the button on the...
How's
Thank
that?
you, sir.
Can y'all hear me? Yes, my name's Bobby Fawcett. I live 3 miles north of town, just right at a mile north of the water tower. So I'm actually in the ETJ, but 2331 is in the city limits, all the way past 916. And the reason that I'm here, I'm going to read what I put on Facebook because it was an incident that I think the community needs to know about and just be aware, because just be alarmed and to alert you. It says, we recently had an incident at our home near intersection 2331 and 915, 3 miles north of Godley. I found a full metal jacket, .223 caliber bullet had come through our children's playhouse. And that was early part of February. Now we hear shooting. I mean, you can shoot in the county. Everybody knows you can shoot in the county, but we hear it all the time out there. And I've talked to several people that say they hear it. But anyway, let me move on here. And I found the bullet laying on the floor as a .223 full metal jacket, if everybody knows what that is. Probably came out of an AR-15, somebody out shooting. So I called Sheriff's Department, and detectives came out, investigated. They spoke to numerous folks living along and near and along County Road 1002, which is directly in parallel basically to 2331, but it's about a mile over. And they had a detective investigate the angle of the bullet and this and that, and he said that it came from that direction. So they went and talked to folks. The evidence shows that the bullet traveled about from 3,000 to 5,000 feet from near 1002. And it was from a high-powered rifle. And if people know anything about these high-powered rifles, they can have a range of over 2 miles. So This is not the first time that this has happened out there. About a year ago, maybe a little longer, I reported to the city just information, the same type, that it had happened to a neighbor of mine across the road. He lives about, an eighth of a mile off of 2331, straight west of me. He had a child out jumping a trampoline and bullets came in. He immediately called the sheriff's department. They came out and they investigated it and found the guy that doing it, and went through the process. Didn't file charges, but that's history. I think he swore he'd never do it. But anyway, let's see here. I've alerted my neighbors, my immediate neighbors, because they're all in jeopardy of this, just based upon the range of that bullet. If you live from the water tower all the way past 915 and somebody's out there shooting, you're in jeopardy. And this was only 2 incidents. We don't know how many bullets have flown through the air. If it hits your house, you probably never know it unless it hits the side. If it hits the roof, you'll probably never know it. We could have had kids, grandkids. I've got animals. So the reason I'm bringing this up is to alert people. We're not in the country anymore, even though it's a mile between 1002 and 2331. But it's legal to shoot. But I checked with the detectives, and they said under deadly conduct penal code that they can range anywhere from a class 3 misdemeanor to maybe it's the other way around. Anyway, a felony. Because once that bullet leaves your muzzle, you're responsible for it. You can shoot on your property all day long. But if he crosses property line, crosses a highway, which it did, cross 2331, which is city property, then we got problems. And I guess I'm just alerting the community that this is going on. If you hear shooting, and these detectives said, you hear shooting, go ahead and call the county. Call the city of Godley. Call a game warden. Call somebody. Don't wait until we have a tragedy. But this is going on. And I just want to let y'all know. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Our next person is Ms. Kayla Lane. You'll have 5 minutes, and I'll let you know when we're down to the last minute.
Good evening, Council. I know I've spoken on the comprehensive plan before, but I just wanted to remind you guys that if this plan is adopted as written, I truly believe it has the impact to change our community from a small rural town to big city and an urban development. I'm highly concerned with the amount of tiny lot developments, apartments, multifamily developments that are in this comprehensive plan. I agree that we do need a comprehensive plan, but I'm afraid if we pass one and have an ordinance for a comprehensive plan that doesn't fit our rural community, that it could have really devastating effects. So I just want to make sure that y'all have taken that into consideration. I was on the steering committee. I did air these concerns to Mosaic many, many times, and we were ignored. But I just want to make sure that you're adopting the right plan for our small town. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. That concludes public input. Next topic is mayor and council reports, presentations, and proclamations. There is nothing scheduled for tonight for that section. Moving on to consent agenda. Council's had their time to read the minutes and the department reports. Is there any questions?
We're not gonna talk about them, have as much to talk about they usually do.
No, sir, we've had the reports all weekend. If there was,
I know that
they're just
we
gonna read.
looked at them, but that's fine, but I would just assume that people come up, say what they have, so that people hear, and people watching or whatever know what's going on. I personally do not want to, 4 of us, 5 of us read it and say good or bad. I want the department heads to come up here and talk to us and the citizens,
All right.
just like we've been doing.
All right, so then on the minutes.
I didn't know we had changed it.
I make a motion to approve the Godley City Council minutes from the regular meeting held on March 5th, 2024, as presented.
Second.
Have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Pappenfuss and a second by Councilmember Mize to approve the Godley City Council meeting minutes from the regular meeting held on March 5th, 2024. Any further discussion? Councilmember Yarborough?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Moving on to department reports.
Good evening, council.
Evening, sir.
Y'all have any questions about the report?
The only question I have is that it says reached out to Rick Bailey and that he would be out next week, but there's not a date on here. When is?
I
when-
apologize.
That's okay.
The next week is this week. He said
This
by
week?
Friday of this week.
Friday of this week.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you briefly, I know it's not on this this month's report, but can you briefly tell us what's going on 171?
Okay, so we had a sewer collapse. I got all the locates called in, started digging it up. We ran a camera down it. Turns out there are many cracks in the line. We got it uncovered today. We fixed the break, so that is fixed. We have one more to fix tomorrow, and should have it all wrapped up. I mean, we pulled the plug, let the flow go through, and with so much volume, it blew another section of it. So that clay pipe definitely needs to be replaced ASAP.
So are we looking at replacing that clay pipe or just going with the plan that Glenn and Kevin were working on for the one across 171?
So right now, the stuff that is broke that we have dug up, we are replacing that with what we have at System 1. As far as what happens after that, I guess that's on you guys to figure out if we can move that deadline up. 'Cause it's needed.
Did T&P get that from Glenn?
Yes, and they've got some conversation going back and forth on that, because there's some issues with it going down 171. So right now, we're just trying to get that corrected where it's at, and then that way they can get together and actually look at what needs to be done, because it's gonna be a huge job, so.
How many feet are we talking that needs to be replaced altogether?
10.
Yeah,
There's 10
about
collapsed, 10 feet collapsed.
yes, yeah, 10-foot collapse plus the extra 2 feet that broke today. So 12 to 15 feet.
And what about all the rest of it that needs to be replaced in future expansion?
Yes, the whole line down 171 needs to be replaced.
Do you know how long it is?
I do not have that. I can find out for you though.
Do y'all have an update on the leak that's been for 6 weeks over there on Bruce Road?
Which one, the System 2?
No, yeah, coming down Bruce.
Yes, we've been trying to get out there. Every time we try to get out there, we either have a sewage backup or something wrong at the wastewater plant. We've been correcting these problems as fast as possible.
Yeah.
I don't have a date that I can give you, but it is the next thing on the list to do.
Just between Subway and where it goes down to our wastewater treatment plant's 2,000 feet.
Sorry, how many feet?
2,000.
And that is the majority where all the problems are. from Subway down to the wastewater plant.
Is that all old line?
Yes,
Okay. It goes all the way up to the high school, doesn't it?
yes, it does,
And that's the newer stuff then,
correct,
20 years at least.
yes.
Okay.
Do we have a ballpark of what it's gonna cost if we replace all of it?
That I don't know.
I've got a guesstimate, and just talking to Danny, and he's looking at about $260,000. And that's not for the whole 2,000 feet, that's just trying to get us from where they're at, where they're working at, back towards the plant, from what I understand.
So to replace the whole 2,000 is gonna be double that?
Probably, or more,
Yeah, cause it's 1,035 feet
yeah.
to where they're working on it.
We are gonna continue to have problems if we don't do something about it.
But we talked about trying to do that in phases, so, you know, that'll come up in the next budget for capital improvements. So, and to phase that.
Do we have any grants we can apply for future, to do any, that,
Not that I'm aware of right now.
Are we going to do a brush collection like what was previously planned, but it got rained out?
Yes, yeah, we still have plans to do that. That pile needs to be burned soon, so now would be the best time to do it.
Any idea when that would happen?
We can look at what the weather's gonna look like for the next couple of weeks, and definitely within the next 2 weeks. We just have a few water leaks to get on top of, and a couple things at the plant, but we can get it done.
Are we opening up the old brush pile? Is that what we're gonna do?
I don't think about it.
The one that's down at the wastewater treatment plant. You would have to drive down into the wastewater treatment plant, they would unload, and it'd go over.
Not the one behind Godley Heights that used to be.
The one closer to Dollar General, that side of it.
I don't think.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Chief Thompson?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Fire Department had a slow month for February. We had 92 calls for service, 61 medical calls, 5 fire calls, 9 false alarms, 7 service calls, and in your report, the 600 series is typically dispatched and canceled en route, the 600 series calls. We do have a new reporting system, so the reports look different than they did in the past, but that's the best chart that I can find for a report in our new reporting system. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, sir.
Nope, thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Chief Cantrell?
Hello, council. For the month of February, Godley PD had 205 calls for service, resulting in 6 arrests, 8 cases filed, and $470 in a theft case. We had 487 total traffic violations for the month of February.
Any questions
I
for
don't
the
have
chief?
anything.
So in January, we had 4 sex offenders registered. This month we had, or last month we had 2. Are those just people re-registering for the annuals?
Some of them are. And once they hit their yearly, they got to re-register. Banana Supply has about 75% of the equipment. Waiting on them to fully get all the equipment. Once they get all the equipment, then they'll be heading that way to be outfitted.
How is our new code enforcement / animal control working out?
He's doing good. This week, the past couple days, he's been busy with wild pigs. You haven't heard about that. Hitting the streets. He's been, luckily we have him here. He's been helping us out with that. And a couple animal calls he's been helping. He's making a good relationship with the local vet, working that out. In mid-April, he will go to code school.
That's all the questions I had.
Anything else?
Is he going, oh, sorry, is he gonna go to school for animal control or code enforcement?
He's already certified animal control.
Okay.
He's just gotta go and work that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. That's okay. Ma'am?
Last but not least. So you have your attached vendor report and a new budget report as of for February 2024. I placed on this agenda the reimbursement on the TDA grant that expired for the amount of $12,500. TML workers' compensation audit adjustment was in the amount of $16,400. And then there was a deductible of $10,000 on the 2023 Thompson case. So that's gonna give a total of $26,408. Those are on this agenda for approval tonight. I'm looking at Tuesday, May the 28th as a budget kickoff. Hoping to do that with staff and council. It's not on a regular meeting night, so we won't have any business other than a very informal sitting down with staff and council to go over their budget proposals. Before that, I will meet with them individually and go through some things, but this is where we're gonna try to start to kick it off at. You met Michelle Clore, our new permit technician, at the last meeting. There were 33 new builds submitted and forwarded to Bureau. 52 new build permits were invoiced in the amount of $61,834.51. The pass-through on the administrative fee was $6,027.62. This was all in revenue. That was in revenues. Water tap fees were $9,500. Water impact fees were $31,348, and sewer tap fees were $15,500, and then $88,578 in your sewer impact fees that were received in revenues on your new build permits issued. And then I attached a cash collection history report so you could see that with the permit tap and impact fees from Encode. I have finished the audio recordings and the complaint that was filed by Mr. Cooper, and that will go on our next agenda in executive session. So I can relate that information to you, or I may have to check with Dean to see if I can just meet with you individually, whichever way he says to do that, to give you an update. Thomas is still taking care of the day-to-day duties and supervising of the staff very well. This is in addition to his normal duties and including the well watch and wastewater plant oversight. Danny Armstrong continues to work with our staff where help is needed as a consultant, and he also worked with me during the interview process of the Public Works Director's position. And then Sean will be here on April the 1st. So looking forward to having him here and all of his experience. Because I don't know what a lot of that is they're talking about. The county commissioner was supposed to have a ILA for us, but he was working on that, need a little bit more time, so it'll be here this Friday, so you'll see it on your next agenda, along with the actual streets from block to block that they're looking at, working on. We did receive, let me finish this. Your former city engineer with Wasteline Engineering did do the walkthrough on the wastewater plant expansion project, and that was on February 21st. He also gathered information that was requested by Tignall and Perkins on the development plats and reviews. And as far as the election go, the ballots have been ordered, supplies have been ordered, and we have received our first application for voting by mail, and we're waiting to process that once we get a ballot, and once our supplies have been received. And then I have the early voting schedule down at the bottom for you. So Monday, the 22nd of April through Friday, the 26th, we'll be here from 8 to 5 for early voting at City Hall. Saturday, the 27th, from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Sunday, the 28th, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And Monday, April the 29th through April the 30th, that will be from 7 A to 7 P. That's it. Y'all have any questions?
Dean, could you elaborate on the Texas laws for the use of public funds for elections? There's been some questions on that.
Thank you. It is election season. I understand that there have been some questions about political advertising, how that works using city facilities, so I'll just read the law, and I guess this is my report, my informational report to y'all. This is section 255.003 of the election code. It says, an officer or employee of a political subdivision may not knowingly spend or authorize the spending of public funds for political advertising. I wish it was that simple. You have to go and look at all of the various Texas Ethics Commission opinions on what that really means. And they're so very fact intensive. If I recall correctly, there's even some opinions about taking out trash, locking doors, accidentally picking up signs and, you know, posting them on the window by a city employee. So the question comes down to, is that spending public funds? And so when it comes to city facilities, always best to err on the side of caution, not expend any kind of funds. And I understand there are a lot of cities that will do it under certain parameters. A lot of times what you're looking at there is whether or not there's some sort of rental agreement that you would use for the general public. But if there's not, then the facts might lend to an expenditure of public funds for political advertising.
Thank you. Any other questions for Ms. Winkle? Thank you, ma'am. Before we move into the public hearing, I'd like to recommend to the council that we move item A and C from new business before the hearing. Is there any objections? A and C.
No objection.
How long is C gonna take? I definitely don't mind doing A, but there are people here for the meeting.
The item C, the presentation from Micah Owens. How long is he here? She's here, I'm sorry. How long are you gonna be, ma'am?
As long
Well, you know, those people, definitely the family for the police officer, no sense in them sticking around after we talked about her. But the other people here for the meeting, they need to go about their business too.
Just out of curiosity, how many people are here for the public hearing tonight?
That answers that.
Well, that plan on speaking during the public hearing. Off that, I'd recommend we go ahead and do A, and then we'll just follow the agenda from there. So on new business, item A, discuss and consider possible action on the confirmation of police officer Sabrina Solis.
Hello, council. This is Ms. Sabrina Solis. She recently graduated the academy. She went through 2 interviews, one with a panel of 4, including the mayor, Sergeant Armanot, City Secretary Gross, and Fire Chief Thompson. She scored our highest overall. Passed her on through the background. She passed the background. Then she had an interview with myself and Ms. Winkle, and she did well there. And then she passed her SET exam, and we offered her initial job offer pending her confirmation.
Make a motion to confirm Miss Sabrina Solis, Sabrina Solis as.
Second it.
I have a motion by Councilmember Yarborough and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Pappenfuss to confirm Police Officer Sabrina Solis. Is there any further discussion? Councilmember Yarborough?
Aye.
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 Motion passes 5-0.
Welcome to Godley.
So before we go any farther, we also tonight are actually going to swear her in and present her with her badge. So we're going to do something a little new and different tonight. So forgive me if I make a mistake in this. If the family wants to come up to take pictures wherever they'd like to be, that is fine. Raise your right hand, please. Repeat after me. In the name and by the authority of the state of Texas,
In the name and the authority of Texas,
I, Sabrina Solis,
I, Sabrina Solis,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will faithfully execute the duties
that I will faithfully execute the duties
of the office of Peace Officer of the state of Texas,
of the office of Peace Officer of the State of Texas,
and will, to the best of my ability,
and will to the best of my ability
preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution
preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution
and laws of the United States and of this state.
and the laws of the United States and the state.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
If you don't care, we can.
And present you with your badge. The box and the certificate. I think that's.
Thank you.
Welcome. See, I told you, you gotta give me a minute. Wasn't me this time.
Bumped you up to 74.
So we'll be moving back to public hearings. Hold a public hearing on the City of Godley Comprehensive Plan.
Mr. Mayor, may I don't think there's anybody here that's gonna talk about it. Maybe we could bring Ms. Owens Weary up if Roger hasn't.
No, I just
You
didn't.
good with that?
No, that's fine.
Let her.
If there's nobody here, there's nobody here.
Let me just verify, is there anybody remaining that wants to speak on this? Okay. Yes, ma'am. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry, 1 second.
Oh, wait, you're just on comprehensive plan, or?
Do we have any questions for, no, comprehensive plan? I'm sorry, ma'am. I was looked at the wrong person. If you would like to come up, please, ma'am. If there's any questions from the council. I got ahead of myself.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for having me again. I'm just here to answer any questions you might have. This was such a big, huge project, and I know we've talked about it a lot. So I'm just here as a resource in case anybody has some questions before you guys take action. For good? Okay, super.
Mary, just for the record, could you just open it up for public hearing and then put down the time and then close it up?
Okay. So opening up for public hearing on the City of Godley Comprehensive Plan at 7:10. Thank you. Does anybody wish to speak? Closing the public hearing on the City of Godley Comprehensive Plan at 7:11. Hey, it changed. Item B, discuss and take possible action on the adoption of the ordinance 12-2023-106, the City of Godley Comprehensive Plan.
Make a motion to adopt ordinance 12-2023-106.
I'll second it.
I have a motion by Councilmember Yarborough and a second by Councilmember Rodriguez to adopt ordinance 12-2023-106, the City of Godley Comprehensive Plan. Any further discussion?
As city staff, do y'all feel like y'all can adequately utilize this plan, or are we going to have to revisit a major portion of it?
I think that we're gonna have to seriously look at our zoning map and our zoning ordinance so that it will work together with it. To me, just my opinion, it's not completed until I have some kind of zoning, to go with it. And we don't have updated zoning. So I think once we get that done, it'll be a lot easier to work with, for sure.
You said Michelle can work on zoning, right? She did zoning before, right?
I'm sorry?
You said Michelle did zoning before, right?
Yeah, but she wouldn't be redoing the zoning ordinance. We're gonna use Bureau.
Oh.
We have a planner in Bureau, Vertas. His name is Maurice. And so we can use him for that. Right now, he's, getting a map together for the city so that we can layer that map with the zoning and those kind of things that we might need in the future for planning. Cause, we need an annexation map, the whole 9 yards, so updated, everything updated, so.
So we can do
That's who we're gonna
amendment-
be using.
Sorry. So we can do amendments to that comprehensive plan as needed.
I would think so.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Right. It's a living document, so you would. Yeah, yes. But it'll be just really helpful to have one updated so that, they go together, to me.
Are we at a point with this, Dean, that we now have just that slight more regulatory authority that we didn't have before? Or does the zoning?
I think it opens the door to more regulatory authority.
Okay.
There are some fines or fees that you can establish, but they require you to have a comprehensive plan. Just as a reminder though, the comprehensive plan doesn't establish zoning. It is a living document. You can amend it with another public hearing and ordinance. You could even adopt an ordinance, and some cities like to do that where they adopt an ordinance that requires the plan to be amended every time you change your zoning. So that can be really cumbersome, but there are a lot of examples out there of how you can do these things, so. We can work with you on getting the zoning updated now that you have comprehensive plan. I think that's a good first step.
What's the timetable on that, do you suppose? Year?
Yeah, at least in the next budget year, so we have the money budgeted for it.
Any further discussion?
So to Kayla's point, I don't think it properly dictates what our city wants to be, whether that's us, the community. I haven't seen a single person say a good thing about it. I've seen a lot of negative things. I get that we can change things, but changing things doesn't always happen. I would like to see that zoning map before we adopt this, that way you'll have a playbook that you can actually utilize. Because right now you're just, hey, we have to enforce this. I'm scared it's just gonna sit up on a shelf. We're going to expect you to do it. The community's gonna expect you to do it, but I don't think you're going to adequately be able to do it.
Well, we definitely, once we get an updated zoning ordinance and a zoning map, I think they'll just work a lot better together, and it won't sit on the shelf. We would actually use that to look at what this area, you know, what you put together as a comprehensive plan, what you wanna see things look like in these different areas.
I mean, but in the meantime, it's gonna be cumbersome on y'all.
Yes,
because-
right now, it's gonna be really hard to try to line that zoning map and the zoning ordinance up with what you have now. It will be hard. But at least we have something, some kind of guidance, a little bit of guidance, until we get the zoning updated. And once we do, it'll be fine. I mean, lots of cities have growing pains like this, you know, where the zoning gets away from them, and before you know it, it's 10 years and they haven't updated anything. That's pretty common, so it's just something that has to be done.
And then maintained,
Yes.
obviously.
And they need to be
So,
looked at every 5 years, I think,
Yeah, yeah.
but that's just how I was trained. It's every 5 years. You look at it and make sure that, you know, 'cause things change in 5 years. Your town changes every 5 years. You may have other development come in. So, yeah, it's something has to be looked at, needs to be stayed on top of.
Yeah, because with the growth that we have here, 3 to 5 is not gonna cut it.
No.
I mean, the growth is rapid here, so we're gonna have to continuously look at it, and it's gonna have, like you said, a living document, it's gonna have to change with the growth.
And redoing a zoning map and ordinance does not happen overnight. It takes many work sessions, many meetings, 30-day public hearing notice. I mean, so it's not just an overnight thing. It takes a lot of time, so you're putting a lot of time into it. And if we budget it in the upcoming budget year, I would suggest that we get started on it probably, you know, the 1st of January, even in December, once that budget's passed. Because you're talking about several months of work. Am I right, Dean? Right? I mean, that's been my experience with it. It's a long process. Because you don't want to look at it again for another 5 years, you know, and hopefully you're planning for the future, so.
The adoption of the plan doesn't assume we're locked into anything, does it? And I don't mean the plan itself, I'm just saying it doesn't, until the zoning is finished, then that, to some degree, locks us in as far as development goes, correct?
Only-
Not this.
Not this.
Okay.
So this is statutory language. This is section 213.004. It says this chapter does not limit the ability of a municipality to prepare other plans, policies, or strategies as required. It also requires a notation, and it's in your plan. It says, this notation is required in all plans, just to clarify. A comprehensive plan shall not constitute zoning regulations or establish zoning district boundaries.
I just don't see a reason not to adopt it, since it's a living document, like she said. It doesn't lock us into doing anything. It gets us at least, we have it. And no, maybe nobody likes it, understood, but that's what we've got. Now that we have something, then we can move forward with editing it and changing it as necessary after the zoning's done.
So take the map, for example. This passes tonight. I tear down my house tomorrow and build commercial on my property. You think any of my neighbors are gonna be happy? No.
But you're not zoned commercial, right? Where
Well,
you're
but
at?
you're gonna have to approve it because our comprehensive plan says that it's
No.
supposed to be commercial over there.
No.
You're supposed to follow the comprehensive plan is what Mosaic's saying.
Yeah, that's the zoning.
Yeah, that's what I just asked him, was does this lock us in to any kind of development?
You would have to follow the zoning ordinance.
Well, I get that,
You would
but
have to go by what's in zone,
What
not
would
what the
you
comprehensive plan is for your future use.
why would you say that I couldn't?
I
The
would cite
comprehensive
this-
plan says I
I would
can.
cite the statutory language that says we don't have to, just because we have the plan doesn't mean you get to do that there. And then if that didn't satisfy you, I guess you'd have to fight Dean in court.
You still have to go through the zoning code and the process to rezone,
I get
to
that,
change the use.
but my point is, you saying that we would deny it. I mean, I would deny it, but I guess I wouldn't have to vote, but why are we adopting a plan that says we can do that over there? Trinin's development isn't commercial on the map.
Because we've been
All
doing
that.
this for over a year and it's time to get it down. And we've had so much trouble. There was the whole former mayor thing. Input wasn't coming in like it was supposed, not you, like it's supposed to be. Oh, sorry.
Well, and that's my question, is this
And
council, there's
so-
parts of this council that has been working on this along with it. So during all this time, why weren't these things voiced and changed? Why now, at the night we're gonna approve it, is all this an issue?
Well, I've voiced this before. I think the committee has voiced it many, many times. It just wasn't heard.
Right. Well, now that it's ours, it can be. It's out of committee. It's about to become adopted, and at that point, we can do what we want to with it. So,
So the commercial that's supposed to go on Railroad, that's not gonna be commercial. Our commercial is going down 171 that way.
Yeah.
So that part of the plan is useless.
it is, but we have the plan and we can change it now. That's the good thing. It's not locking us into anything because our commercial's going down 171. If we want to, we can change it at any time, right? I mean, there's no, a public hearing, et cetera, et cetera.
Comprehensive plan may be adopted or amended by ordinance following a hearing, opportunity to give testimony, present written evidence, and review by the planning commission or department, which is the council. And it says the municipality may establish in its charter or by ordinance procedures for adopting and amending comprehensive plan. So you can even pick out the process that you want for amending that in case of a zoning change or updates where you wanna make them.
And so in the simplistic, I mean, I know this is simplistic to say, but it's as easy as making an argument and convincing the rest of the council that you wanna move the commercial down 171 and we voting to do it within the
You
statutory
could,
requirements.
right, and you can have an ordinance that changes the plan and you update the map.
But we can't just not, the only other option, I suppose, would be not to adopt it and to continue on. And I don't wanna spend any more money to do that. It's been long enough.
And we're gonna have to spend money to change the plan anyways.
Why do we spend money to change the plan? It'd be our decision. Why would we spend money?
Are you
Other than yours?
well skilled in master?
You're spending
development?
hours, to do the ordinance or whatever,
Right.
right?
Are you skilled in planning? Because I'm not. I would depend on a third party. That's why we initially hired them. Otherwise, prior cities have.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping Bureau Veritas will be able to give us some tips and helps and whatever. And either way, it's, what are you gonna do? Not adopt it? Spend another, how much was the bill total?
149,000.
You wanna spend another $150,000 to redo it?
I mean, I would rather spend money to have a plan that we actually can utilize in full functionality rather than just sit here and adopt a, no offense, a half-ass plan that we don't like.
Say hypothetically, we do what you're asking, does that return this plan back over to the committee then again to have control over the next 150,000? Or if we adopt it and it becomes our working document, then we can change it as we see. But if not, does it go back to the committee for their recommendation? Will we right back into that same area again? I'm asking because I don't know how that would work if we denied it.
Are you asking?
I'm just asking general, who has that answer?
Okay.
Dean would have it.
Yeah, it won't go back to committee. It's an ordinance that the council adopts. It's a legislative act. So some councils will change their plan. If they have the resources, they'll change their plan every single time there's a zoning change. They'll update the maps, they'll, put out notice, they'll do public hearing. Others will wait every couple years, kind of gather up all the changes and then put them together in a map. And so you can figure out how you want to do that as a governing body. There are a lot of options there.
This is only, the plan as it stands right now belongs to the city, whether it's adopted or not. It's ours.
The paper belongs
Yeah,
to
I mean,
you,
yeah,
you've paid for
The
it.
document is ours.
Yes.
So if we adopt it, it's ours, we move on with it. If we don't adopt it, it's still ours, we can do whatever we want to with it. We don't have to start all over again.
That's right. You could still
You can
use
start
it and
with
you could
that
have
one and-
another public hearing and, or 10 more, however many you want.
Yes, ma'am.
Just to clarify, there's
If I,
more. Okay,
if I can get you to come up
yes.
with.
Just a few points to clarify. The last page in the plan gives guidance for updates and amendments and processes for that. Also, the plan's more than land use. There's a lot of public improvement project guidance and things like that in there as well. And so adoption of the plan gives your staff a mandate to set budgeting for new things and new tools. It's not just about zoning, it's about public improvements, it's about management tools like Planning and Zoning Commission and other things like that. And so the plan was built so that there's guidance for how to update and amend it. There's a thoroughfare plan section, there's trails and sidewalks in there that we did lots of workshops on. Also, just to clarify, there wasn't a single request I received to make a change that I did not either honor or give a reason for why. Every single person who gave, and I asked for written feedback and got none from most of the steering committee. I got very little written feedback at all. So I gave you guys a detailed account of all of the things in that big packet a couple of months ago when weather kind of messed up our plan for the night. So I'm not sure where that comment is coming from. And we did an extensive amount of input from other folks as well. And so I'm sorry there's a few people that feel like their voice wasn't heard, but I asked for comments, and every comment that I got either responded to or made the change for. So that document doesn't tie anything to any, all it does is give you tools so that if someone comes in and asks for a rezoning, then you're given the equipment to be able to figure out how you should decide it. So this doesn't rezone, this just says if someone brings a rezoning to you as council, you have something to guide that decision. That's all the comp plan is. The land use section is, okay, they want to rezone to this. How do we know how to decide that? Well, let me look at this piece of paper as a guide. So you make the decision on that. So just those points of clarification. So there is, if you adopt the plan, you have guidance in there on how you want to do updates and amendments. And then the land use plan and the zoning, once you get your zoning code updated, which you were going to have to do anyways, because it's old, what, 10, 15 years old at least. So that's going to have to happen anyways.
20 years.
So this is just to help to, as you do that, you need some kind of guidance because you can't just arbitrarily do a new zoning code. And so when you get your land use plan in place, that helps the consultants you're going to use to do your zoning code update to know kind of how it needs to be structured. And there's a lot of pieces in there that will help that. There's that whole housing component, gets you way off the way on definitions for residential development types. There's a lot of stuff in there other than just that land use map that I would just encourage you to consider. Just the public improvement lists, project prioritization for the next year, because your staff needs that to know how they're supposed to prioritize with budget and stuff. So just to let you know that. There's a lot more in there than just that map, and that map is more for you. I would say the land use map is for you, and it's for developers to know what you like. That's pretty much it. So you're the one who uses it as a tool, and then it's also a marketing piece for the city. So.
I think Well, the question, like he brought up though, is that use his house, for example, like he said, and then if it's zoned commercial, can a developer come in and say, I'm buying that house, it's in your comp plan that it can be commercial, so now we want it to be commercial? Does the council still have a right to say, no, we don't want it to be commercial?
Yes,
But then
but-
he can say, you approved it in a comp plan, so
Well, the
how
comp
we
plan
argue.
doesn't zone,
Okay.
none of it, that's what it's a
Okay.
I think it's being misrepresented. There are growth sectors, and then there's a list of preferred uses, and uses that might be okay if they did some extra work, and stuff like that. And then there's a big chart at the back saying, even if it's okay, you need to check to make sure, like, that would actually not be approved, because that transition table says, don't put commercial next to a house. You know, and so there's a lot of guidance in there on best practices to make sure that that's actually not gonna happen. So the land use plan would ensure that didn't happen. So they could do it today, but if you adopted this land use plan, you guys would hold that plan up and say, this says that's not a good use, like, they're not compatible uses, so sorry. But the thing is to remember too, is that you can't zone outside your city limits, so I don't know if some of these properties y'all were talking about earlier aren't even inside the city limits. And so your comp plan helps with plating though, and gives some guidance on things other than zoning. So now, if you adopt the comp plan, you can go in and set more stringent design standards, which is what a lot of the community actually cares more about, is that ETJ development. And zoning doesn't touch that, and the comp plan does. And so, getting that comp plan adopted, you're gonna have some guidance for improving your subdivision design standards to ratchet that up for new subdivisions. You don't have that now. And a couple of years ago, I don't remember who, somebody asked the question of, why can't the city enter into these agreements or put more restrictions on this? And the response was, you don't have any, there's no public will, there's no public interest expressed because you don't have a comprehensive plan. So in the absence of a master plan, you can't just arbitrarily start requesting things of developers. But once you have that plan adopted, you can say, you can't do that, look at our plan. And so it's also a way to help manage development through your subdivisions. It's not just about your zoning code. Long answer, but because that's how it's ETJ related as well. It's not just zoning in the city.
Well, that's what I was asking before, Dean. Does this give us any further regulatory authority? You said just that little bit, but,
It opens the door to it, yeah.
okay.
It's your springboard, because 212, which is your subdivision code, it references that you can create infrastructure consistent with your master plan, you know? And so the comp plan isn't your regulatory document, it's your policy document that all your regulations kind of grow off of. So it's the springboard to all of that stuff. So until you have that springboard, you're really reaching when you start imposing those regulations, because someone's gonna say, that's arbitrary, why are you saying that? So you need that comp plan to say, no, it's part of the big picture, this is where we're going, and, you know, everything needs to fit.
I'd like to see all reference to, apartments and lots smaller than the average than we have in town removed from it myself. That's the only only complaints I have about it.
And you know that it doesn't outright allow that anywhere, like it has
I
to,
know.
you know, so I'm just making sure.
I understand it doesn't
Okay.
allow it, it's just that
Yeah.
it says
Yeah.
that it is possible, so therefore we're saying, yeah, we kind of see that coming, that's
It
fine.
could be,
But
yeah.
I'm just totally and completely against it, apartments of any kind. I understand they make money for the city, but I'm just against them, period.
We talked about that a couple of months ago at a meeting, about why we can't just outright prohibit certain uses. I don't know if do you want me to do that again, or?
We did, do you want me to discuss that, or, I understand the comment.
Yeah,
I understand,
Okay.
They can make it happen, HUD can come here and make it go on, but I'll still vote against it.
So to go back to my house, if it's currently next door is not R1,
Mhm.
so it would fit, if I remember that timetable enough, or the table enough, I could potentially turn it commercial, which would then allow my neighbors to then, if it gets rezoned. But if I come to y'all and say, hey, I wanna get this rezoned, it matches our comprehensive plan, my neighbors are not R1, why won't y'all let me do it? I mean, it would just, to me, makes sense, okay, yeah, it's expanding, that's what the comprehensive plan says, And then once I do it, it'll say my neighbor's not to do it. And then it just starts going all over town. in that
We've just
little
made an
car.
argument for rezoning, not an argument against the comprehensive plan.
But I would make my argument for rezoning based upon the comprehensive plan that we adopt.
Well, what's the guarantee that we spend another $150,000 to get the perfect plan that everybody in the town loves and votes on, and then we all get fired, right? And then the next council comes in and says, nah, gotta fix it, quote unquote.
I don't think you're gonna, I mean, like Charity said, the bones are here.
Well, then
I
let's
don't think
pass
it's
the
all there.
bones, and then we'll fix it later.
Michael, what is it that you're having an issue with? I'm just confused because I have walked back so far on everything that everyone had an issue with. We had pretty much all issues put to bed, except for that point Roger brought up. I feel like that's really the only objection I've heard that hasn't been, every single other objection has been resolved except for that one. And by law, I can't do that. So, I think actually a lot of people on steering committee are 100% supportive of this. I would say over half. We had 3 people that weren't. And just through circumstances and situations, our steering committee's kind of just, broken up a little bit. But a lot of attention was paid to every single comment, and every single one was addressed except for Roger's concern. And I don't know how to do that without breaking the law. And so I don't know how anyone else will be able to do that for you without breaking the law either. So that's what
can't regulate that.
Unless there's something else I'm missing, like.
So the land map, it's atrocious. Like,
Okay.
we have commercial down there, we're not having commercial. We'd already discussed it was going residential, there's apartments down there. It's not really a good commercial corridor because of the entrance and exits. TxDOT agrees.
Are you talking about because none of those are single-use districts, those are all mixed use, there's like tons of different uses. Are you talking about the major commercial corridor along 171?
Along Railroad, yes.
So the one that's like your only chance to get sales tax off of the highway for your whole city?
We can't get that off the highway, there's a railroad track in between. And
Oh,
the only,
there's no commercial on the other side of that. What are you talking about? The employment area, that's industrial.
okay, industrial, it's not meant for industrial, commercial, whatever you want
But
to
it
call
is right now. Those are the existing uses on the ground right now.
Yes, there's 3 businesses there.
Mhm.
But to label that entire thing, industrial, commercial, whatever you want.
It's not commercial, it's just non-residential. It's because of traffic issues, because you only have 2 places to cross a railroad track right there. And so if you let homes go in there, then you're creating huge traffic and safety issues at your only 2 crossings. And so the idea is as the subdivisions expand around, you need uses in there that don't create traffic problems. And we talked about that before. So the land use plan is not just about pouring in whatever I like, it's about traffic management and infrastructure capacity. And so any road that's on the back or side of a railroad track has very limited access. And so you are funneled to those 2 crossings, and then all those subdivisions north of 171 are also funneled to those same 2 crossings. And so those existing uses, keeping them what they are, is about the best thing you can do to manage traffic. And you have fairly low demand for anything else in there right now. And so not changing that and keeping it what it was is what the land use plan does. It doesn't introduce anything different. It's exactly what it is today, because that's the way to be responsible with the traffic pressure on your intersections right there.
But it also labels or colors that area where we have single-family residential, a church. Those are also in that sector.
Mm-hmm.
So,
They're not prohibited. That doesn't affect them at all. It just avoids moving in different things that are gonna burden, the land use plan doesn't affect anybody's existing uses, nothing. Because all it does is say if someone comes in for a rezoning, this is kind of how we need to manage it. And it's a system that all fits together. None of that's in isolation. The land use plan is consistent with the thoroughfare plan, which is consistent with the water wastewater plan, and all of these things, the trails and the sidewalks and safety issues, mobility, livability, so they all play off of each other. And so there's a reason each of those are set up the way they are. Remember at the open house meeting when you told me about where that subdivision went, I took great care to change that one triangular piece to be part of Godley North because of that. Because, well, if that's gonna be residential already, then we need to change it to reflect. So that was grabbed and made part of the community of Godley North. And the part that's kept there is based on existing use that will create minimal burdens on those intersections and those railroad crossings, because those are a concern for the community. I mean, at every meeting that we've had in person, there's raised a question about those.
But like you said earlier, if I'm a developer from California and I go onto our website and look at our comprehensive plan and say, hey, okay, they want industrial over here. I'm gonna attempt to buy that land, because that's where we say that we want industrial. So I go buy that land and I turn it into industrial, bam, you got truck traffic nonstop on those roads. That's not meant for it.
Well, I haven't changed any of the zoning for anything, and again, that gets, I think you have to understand, this land use plan is a tool for you. You make the decision on zoning, on all of that stuff. So this plan does nothing to change anything from what it is today. This is just when changes are gonna be made, you now have a tool to guide that. You're still making the decision, but there's 5 parts to that land use plan. There's the map, and each of those areas has uses that are preferred and possible. There's a description of improvements developers need to make to support quality of life and stability of the thing. There's that transition table, and then there's guidance for the different types of what each, like definitions of each of those different housing types are. So there's a lot in there that you get to use, because rezoning cases, you have discretionary authority for that, but to do that without guidance, you're exposed and at risk for making decisions that are completely arbitrary, you know, and kind of, they're baseless if you don't have a base, if you don't have something to hold up as your policy. So that's all this is. It's your policy guide that you get to use. If you say no to everything, that's your discretionary authority to do that.
But why would we as a council say no to a California developer wanting to do industrial there? That's what we approved.
We approved that it may go there. It didn't say anything about it has to go there.
It doesn't have to go there, but that's what we want to see there. That's what our comprehensive plan says to developers.
But it still has to come back to the council. It's still a may.
And it's
not a
already
definite.
zoned for that, so it doesn't matter. They already have that right to go ahead and
It's
put
not
that.
zoned for that. There's a lot of single-family residential. There's a church there.
This is a very small area. Using the word a lot, it might be a slight exaggeration. This is not a large portion of town, and most of those properties are large-scale industrial on the map. You know what we can do? If you want, well, we're done, but I would encourage you to go back and look if there's individual parcels, like if there's an actual neighborhood, because everything that's a neighborhood is Godley North. Larger tracts, those are existing use. But is that the only sticking point? I'm just trying to figure out, because I know it's been a couple of months. I hesitate to let the impression fall that like nobody's happy, because that's actually not true. I mean, we had hundreds of people, how many people filled out surveys, how many people came and participated, people spoke in support of this plan at previous meetings, several people did. And so I think it's misrepresentation to say that people don't like this plan. I think certain people are very vocal that don't like this plan, but I think that's a misrepresentation of all of the input that's been given throughout over the course of these meetings.
So our thoroughfare plan. Johnson County is currently going through their own thoroughfare plan with every single city,
Yeah.
XDOT, COG, everybody. It so far does not line up with ours, and we're gonna have to change that. I get that's something that we didn't know that at the very end, we were finding out that they're gonna do their own. So that's not your fault.
You're in a better position having one. That's what I would actually say the opposite of that. The worst thing you can do is to make your plan based off of their plan. It's the opposite. You need to say, this is our plan, this is what, because your community met around, we did workshops, we identified 180 feet of sidewalk at this street. Like, you have specific projects at linear feet of things that your community wants. So you need to be able to go to TxDOT and say, we want a sidewalk on both sides of the road on this road, and our comp plan has that. You're giving projects to them to put on their list. They're not gonna know that. They don't know what your community wants, and you do. So best practice is for the city, you need your thoroughfare plan first, and then you take that and shop that to county and COG and everybody else. Because if you don't have it on paper, you're invisible to them. They're just gonna put here whatever they want. And that's the worst thing you can do. You wanna say, we're town, we're people, we met, and we already know what we want. We want this. They may say no, but at least they know that's what you want. The best thing you can do is to have your own plan and go to them. And then they need to work around that. They actually like that. They like when everybody comes with input.
Is that the normal MO would
Yes.
be that the town says, this is what we want now?
Because how do they know? They don't know where to put any of this stuff. So if you've done due diligence, you've done studies, you've already done, because people are always come to those meetings mad. Public meetings for textile projects, people are always mad. And so if you can come to them and say, we had a steering committee do we workshopped this stuff, and these were the 10 sidewalks and our trails in our town that everybody's really interested in, that's an actual project that can make it onto one of their project lists, that you've already done a level of magnitude cost estimate on, you've already gotten some public input on, you have it on, it's on a map, it's something people want. And so you help them do that, and it's more catered towards what works here. Because if not, it's just this arbitrary state standard that has nothing to do with the feel of your town and what you want. It's just, what somebody sitting in downtown Fort Worth, draws up and then done. So the best thing you can do is go to them with your thoroughfare plan done. And that's your point of negotiation. And you have projects to shop to them and work with them. You may need to, at some point, change it as a means of negotiation once you enter that dialogue, but you're at the table once you have your plan. If you don't have a plan, you're visible. So,
One final question, if I can, Mayor. Someone had addressed, or I believe Ms. Lane, said there was concern of the lot sizes in our comp plan. Do you know what that's in regards to?
No, I have no idea, because there's nothing about lot sizes in the comp plan. That's totally a zoning issue.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we covered that.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's different, I define different scales, like large versus compact, but the actual sizes of those aren't anywhere in there.
Isn't that regulated by our ordinances, lot sizes?
Is it already in our ordinances?
Yeah,
Is
that's
that
what I'm saying.
Yes.
That's
It's in your
regulated by
zoning
our
code.
lot
Mhm.
sizes, not by the comp plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So when you go back and redo your zoning code, that's when those lot size conversations are gonna happen on what constitutes a compact lot. I just introduced the terminology, because that's the hardest part, and then once you get the words, like what color's gonna be in your crayon box, just name them. And then those, square footage, height, setback, all that stuff's gonna be decided when you do the zoning code.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm going to call for a vote on this. Councilmember Yarborough,
Aye.
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 No.
No.
by a vote of 3-2, the adoption of ordinance 12-2023-106, the City of Godley Comprehensive Plan is passed. Moving on to new business. Item B, discussion, take possible action approving the appointment of Chantel Murphy to take the place of Sky Hamilton on the Holiday and Events Committee.
Make a motion to approve the appointment of Chantel Murphy.
Second, okay. Go ahead.
I have a motion by Councilmember Yarborough and a second by Councilmember Mize to approve the appointment of Chantel Murphy to take the place of Sky Hamilton on the Holiday and Events Committee. Any further discussion?
Dean, do we have to do this by resolution or no?
How was she appointed? Was she appointed by resolution or ordinance? Do we know?
They were appointed by each council member, got choices at that meeting.
It's just not named in the ordinance, it just lists the number of members. They're not individually named though.
But each council member had a pick, is what
I
happened.
think it was minutes approval.
Did we, sorry, say that?
I think it was minutes approval, approved by minutes, not by resolution.
Okay.
But I do believe there is a resolution on the holiday committee.
Yeah, I thought there was
There is.
an ordinance or resolution.
There's one or the other. I have it at the house.
Hold on, I'm looking really quick.
It doesn't name them, it just gives the number of members.
And then we
Creation
came
of
back, and then y'all came back later and adopted.
There's a number there now.
Okay, so it says, holiday and events committee shall consist of, and then what are the numbers? How many members?
8.
8 members who shall serve at the will of the council, may be removed from the holiday events committee at any time by the city council with or without cause. I mean, ordinarily, you would just, you could do it by minute, you can do it by resolution. I don't think it hurts to do it by resolution. Help you keep track of the
Is there names listed on there, or is it
There's
just
no
a place,
names.
so then we can,
It's a place, yeah, you're just
by
appointing.
minutes, then we can,
I mean, you don't need the formality of a resolution or ordinance, but I like to be consistent if you did it before. Do you remember, Mayor Pro Tem, how you did it before?
I try to look it up, but
I mean, either way, I think you're gonna have an action by the governing body and that should resolve it. It's a legislative act. So whether you do it by minute, resolution, or ordinance, it's up to you.
That we could just include it in the minutes.
Yep.
Oh, I spoke to Lindsay about it, and she said that we could just include it in the minutes, that it did not have to be by resolution. But it was, it's up to you
Yeah,
guys.
and that's ordinarily how most cities will do it.
I mean, the creation of the committee was by resolution, but the appointment of the members was
Sure.
informal, as far as I
Yeah,
remember.
that's, yeah, I think, I don't remember. I think it was something like that. I remember them all coming and sitting here and everyone just kind of saying, I'd like so-and-so.
Yep.
And that's how it was done.
Councilmember Yarborough?
Aye.
aye,
Aye.
I,
Motion passes 5-0 to appoint Chantel Murphy to take the place of Sky Hamilton on the Holiday and Events Committee. Moving on to item C, receive a presentation from Micah Owens-Weary, Senior Vice President of Hilltop Securities, regarding the participation in the local government investment cooperative, Logic, and Texas Short-Term Asset Program, TechStar. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, council members. My name is Micah Owens. As you know, I work for Hilltop Securities. I am here to speak to you guys today regarding investment solutions for the city. I've spoken to Angie. It's my understanding that currently you guys are only using your bank depository for an account. We did look at things. You are getting a pretty decent rate. However, one of the things we talked about is some diversification. Because right now it looks like you only have one source where you can earn money, which is your bank. So one of the things that we want to look at, we want you guys to seriously consider, is investment pools. And feel free to just stop me at any time to ask questions. So I want to quickly touch on what is an investment pool and the two pools that you guys are going to consider, TechStar and Logic. So first and foremost, TechStar and Logic are government investment pools that are very similar to money market type of accounts. These investment vehicles are governed by the Public Fund Investment Act, which is pretty much the state statutes of what we can and can't invest on behalf of municipalities. Both of these pools are managed by Hilltop Securities and JP Morgan. We are the co-administrator of those pools. And so what does that mean when we say they're the co-administrators? Well, Hilltop Securities, we are a municipal investment bank. So we specifically do financial advisory, asset management, arbitrage rebate calculations for municipalities only, school districts, counties, water districts. We are the front-facing to the clients. We do the day-to-day operations. JP Morgan is the portfolio manager, so they do all the buying and selling in the security or in the pools. Between the two pools that we have, we manage roughly around 23 to 26 billion. Peak season is property tax season because a lot of municipalities use this for their property taxes. They use this for their bond proceeds, any operating cash that you have. The whole idea is that you have what I call additional investment solutions outside of just your bank. Now, when I say outside of just your bank, we're not saying that you should use us instead of your bank, because you are required to have a bank account that you tie to these investment vehicles. So we're not saying not to use your bank. What we're saying is you need some additional options, okay? The other thing that other reason why we're saying that is because there are options out there that can pay you more. That can give you a better rate. And as I said, your bank is giving you a good rate. However, there's room to make a little bit more. And so in front of you, you have our most recent newsletter for both TechStar and Logic. And I want to point out a couple of items on both of these pools so that you have some clarity and complete understanding of how each of them work. So the first one we're going to look at is TechStar. And so what Techstar is, it's what we call a government-only investment pool. And what we mean by that is the securities that that pool is investing in or JP Morgan is purchasing are only government securities. What I mean by that, treasuries, agency, repurchase agreements, those are the only investment vehicles that this portfolio will invest in. One of the things I want to bring some clarity to is, I was talking to Angie, and one of the difference between investment pool and your bank deposit account is banks insure, FDIC insure $250,000 per account, up to $250,000, correct? Anything over that you put your money into the bank, they have to collateralize that. And what are they collateralizing that with is treasuries, because treasuries are U.S. government securities backed by the U.S. So if something goes wrong, right, with your bank not being able to collateralize, you have a bigger issue than just, you have an issue across the board, right? Because everything is backed by the U.S. government, and we expect the government to make good on their agreements. So right now, Techstar, if you flip to page 2 on that newsletter that I sent you, I want you to take a look at one, this is as of February 29th. And you can see treasuries, 33%, agencies, 12.6%, and repurchase agreements, 54%. And then the most important thing is the maturity of these securities in this portfolio. Most of them, 63%, almost 64% of these securities are going to mature in 1 to 7 days. Why is that important to understand? Is because we're not holding securities very long. We can't. Why? Because investment pools have to be liquid. You as a city have to be able to access those funds on a daily basis, okay? So these are very short-term securities, low risk, short-term. And then the other thing I want to point out is if you look at the distribution of the participants, as you can see, the two biggest, or I would say the three biggest investors in these portfolios or in these investment vehicles are cities, school districts, and utility districts. Right now, between both of these pools, we have roughly about 1,700 participants. On the first page to the left, you can see that, God bless you.
Thank you, thank you.
Total number of participants are 1,024 in Techstar. That pool has about $11 billion. And of that 1,024, roughly 25% of our cities. So some cities that you may be familiar with that utilizes this investment vehicle, City of Cleburne, City of Burleson, City of Benbrook, City of Mansfield, Arlington, Midlothian. So a lot of the cities in the surrounding areas that you're familiar with utilizes this investment vehicle. So now I want to jump over to Logic. So Logic, both of these pools operationally will work exactly the same way. They're both daily liquidity. Both of them, you can set up accounts, as many accounts as your staff finds necessary. The difference between these two pools is what they invest in. So Techstar, as I said, is a government-only pool, which will only invest in treasuries, agency, and repurchase agreements. Logic is what's called a prime pool. So what does that mean? It's going to invest in commercial paper, addition to the treasuries, agencies, and repurchase agreements. Not just addition to, but primarily. And the reason why we have these two different options for two different reasons. One, diversification, and for clients that are looking for additional yield. So your Techstar pool right now, as of yesterday, is paying, let's see, as of yesterday, Techstar was paying 5.2969, so roughly 5.30. Logic is going to pay you a little bit more, 5.4726, roughly almost 5.5%, 5.47. So you're going to take on a little bit more risk, but you're going to get a little bit more yield, right? Again, Logic, just like Techstar, has to, under the Public Fund Investment Act, is required to provide you daily liquidity. So you will be able to access these funds on a daily basis. We have clients that may issue debt, and the bond proceeds deliver in one day, and the very next day they need to withdraw those funds because they're paying a developer or they're buying a fire truck or whatever they're doing. So you have daily liquidity in both of these. If you turn to page 2 of Logic, I want you to take a look at the charts here. The first thing I want you to see is that if you look at this particular portfolio, as of end of February, it was 94% in commercial paper. So you are participating in commercial paper. Now, the other thing to point out is the portfolio's maturity. 63% of the securities or that commercial paper in that pool is going to mature in 1 to 7 days. So again, we're not holding any securities very long. Public Funds Investment Act requires us to have a weighted maturity of no more than 60 days roughly, okay? So in other words, we will not hold a security, a weighted average maturity longer than 60 days for any of the pools. And I will tell you that's across the board with any pool. Then the other thing you want to look at, again, is the distribution by participation. And as you see, 28% of the assets in this portfolio is made up of cities. 31% is made up of school districts. So as I said, between the two, we manage about, on the low end, 23 billion, peak season, which is property tax season, it usually peaks up to roughly around 26 billion. Any questions so far?
So in the investment policy that we're looking at tonight, that goes all the way up to 2 years. Do y'all have anything that matures that far out?
No, the pools will not have anything going out 2 years. The other thing I want to talk about is, I just kind of want to reiterate is, again, the benefits. One, the benefit of using an investment pool, one is ease of use for your staff. Very simple. It's a portal that they utilize. They can initiate their transactions on their own. They can actually preload transactions if staff is going to be out. So it is a very easy, friendly tool to use. The other reason the other benefit is economies of scale. And what do we mean by economies of scale? So unlike the banks, sometimes that have collateralization issues and can only take in so much, pools can take in as much funds as you have. The other thing about pools is that you're paying for a professionally managed investment portfolio. So what do I mean by that? Well, instead of your staff or you trying to buy treasuries and ladder out buying your treasuries 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, or you buying your commercial paper on your own, which requires some due diligence. That's what you put the money in the pools for. That's what the portfolio managers do. You're paying for a professionally managed investment vehicle. The other thing I need to mention that's very important too is that both of these pools, another way we maintain liquidity is we have, both of these pools have a share price of $1. So, or what we call a NAV, a net asset value of $1. So for every dollar that you put in the account, when you go to withdraw, you get $1 back plus a little bit of interest, okay? So we are required to maintain a share price of $1 in both of these investment pools. And again, this is all governed by the Public Fund Investment Act. It's the Public Fund Investment Act, section 2256.001, I believe. All of it's outlined, what we can and cannot purchase, how we mitigate risk, how we have to keep our stable NAV at $1. And I will tell you, when we say the term $1, that's typically a range, roughly like 0.00955 all the way up to 1.0000125. It's an actual range, but ultimately it's $1. The other thing to mention with both of these pools, we are rated. Standard & Poor's rates the investment pools. They monitor us, and we are a AAA rated investment pool. It's the highest rating you can have in a investment pool, or similar to like a money market account. And then, what else did I want to mention to you? Oh, fees. How do management fees work? So the way an investment pool works, that rate that I quoted you for Techstar of roughly 5.30 and the rate for Logic at 5.47, that is net of our fee. So if you look at the front page, and again, all the information that we put out on this on a monthly basis, again, Public Fund Investment Act requires us to put this information out. So you will get a copy of this, meaning your staff will have access to this on a monthly basis. To the left, if you look down and you see for Logic, management fee on invested balance is 0.0975. That's the management fee that we charge. That management fee comes out off the top, meaning you don't get any billing or invoicing the yield that you're getting is net of the fee. So that 5.47 that we're paying, it's net of that 0975 fee. And the other thing, how fees work with the management pool, it's a fee on the total portfolio. And you, as an individual participant in the pool, you're paying a per share rata basis. So what do I mean by that? So let's say you have a client that has 100 million in their account within the pooled, those pooled assets, and you have, 2 million, you're gonna pay on per share rata based on your balance, not, you're gonna pay based on what your balance is. So, any questions so far?
So you mentioned JP Morgan.
Yes.
They just got fined $348 million. Since 2000, they've had $39 billion in fines.
Uh-huh.
Your parent company's only had like less than 20 million, so I'm not worried about y'all. I am worried about
JP Morgan. So what I will tell you, so JP Morgan, huge entity. In terms of liquidity management, they manage $1.83 trillion worth of liquidity in the country, okay? So one of the reasons why we partner with JP Morgan is because they have the balance sheet, and they have the wherewithal, and they have the expertise to work through any economic condition in terms of investing on behalf of their clients. And in the space, and when I say that's $1.1 trillion in just the short-term asset space, okay? So when their fees that they're charged, depending on where those issues were, it may not necessarily be in the space of short-term asset management. I mean, I'll give you another example. We had a few years back, there was a trading situation in the New York office where there was pretty much institutional trading where a trade went wrong. It cost them $1 billion, had nothing to do with the investment pools, whole different group, and they have the balance sheet where they can pay it with no issues. I will tell you this, another reason why we partner with JP Morgan, especially with the pools and municipalities, that our clients being municipalities, is because at any point in time, we are very confident if they are invested in a security that goes on what we call credit watch, they can get out of it. They have the access to the marketplace to get out of a security. I'll give you an example. So a couple years back, maybe a year or two ago, Credit Suisse, last year we went through all the situation with all these banks starting to go under. Well, Credit Suisse, which is a foreign bank, went on credit watch, meaning they were downgraded. And so our portfolio manager called our office and said, hey, we're pulling that security out of the portfolio. We understand your clients can't take the market headline risk. We still have faith in the company, but we're going to take it out of your portfolio. That's the power that you have with JP Morgan having deep pockets, expertise, and just having the liquidity there.
So if y'all ever had any SEC, OCC violations recently that dealt with municipal governments?
In terms of the portfolios, no.
Okay.
No, none at all. No. I'm trying to think anything else.
What kind of risk do we have? What kind of risk are we putting the city at if we do this?
Good question. What kind of risk do you take when you invest in an investment pool? So depending on what you're investing in. So Techstar, because they're government-only securities, the biggest risk you take is interest rate risk. Now you take interest rate risk on both of the. Anytime you're talking about short term, you're taking interest rate risk. That's why rates right now are so high on the short end of the curve, is because rates are short. So the benchmark for both of these pools, what we call the 90-day Treasury bill, okay? And the 90-day T-bill is what you want to compare these investment vehicles to. So for Techstar, like I said, the biggest risk you take is an interest rate risk because these rates follow the Fed rates, right? So if the Feds are increasing rates, your pools tend to increase, right? If the Feds start cutting rates and rates start coming down, short-term rates start coming down, the pools will fall in line. So that's the biggest risk I would say you take in investing investment option like a Techstar. The biggest risk you take in investing in Logic is credit risk. Why? Because commercial paper isn't necessarily backed by the U.S. government, it's backed by lines of credit. So what they do is they look at high quality, what we call A1P1, high quality paper. For example, Toyota issues credit, right? Do we think Toyota's actually gonna go out of business and stop making cars? Probably not. It's a very high quality paper, right? So although you're taking on credit risk, the question is, what is this vehicle doing to mitigate those risks, okay? Because you can't really control the Fed fund rates, right? You can't control necessarily the credit risk. But what we do to mitigate the risk is, one, we maintain that share price of $1, right? Number two, we keep the portfolio very short term. Most of those securities are gonna mature in 1 to 7 days. Let's say there's a security in a portfolio and it goes on credit watch, meaning it's been downgraded. For whatever reason, maybe management change, maybe, you know, the industry is, you know, under a duress, and that security for that company starts to get downgraded. Well, if the maturity is gonna, you know, if the maturity on the security is gonna mature in 2 days, they may not get out of the they may or may not get out, right? But JP Morgan has the ability and the option to do it if they need to, okay? Now, if you're in a security and it's not gonna mature for another 2 years, to get out, you gotta sell at a loss, right? Because you've got a long maturity rate there. So one of the ways we mitigate either one of those risks is keeping these securities very short term.
So do y'all have an in-house analyst, or are they all JP?
It's all JP Morgan. So JP Morgan, that's why we partner, because JP Morgan isn't in the space with public entities or municipalities in terms of investing in this way, but we're in this space because we are a municipality investment bank. So we specialize working with your entities. But what they specialize is short-term money management. So that's why it makes a good partnership for our clients. And I will tell you, we've had this relationship for well over 20 years. We created Techstar in 2002 with $0 and grew it. Logic was inherited. There was a previous money manager, smaller, lesser known, kind of mom and pop shop money manager, and actually that's what happened. So what happened was when PG&E, if you remember the gas company, when they went, when their prices, or when they went on credit watch, the manager couldn't get out of that security quick enough. They couldn't sell out. They didn't have access to the market to sell out fast enough. None of their clients lost any principal, but it was their interest that they didn't get. So what the board did, because both of these pools have a board that we report to, just so you know. So we not only are governed by the Public Fund Investment Act, but both pools have a board that we meet with on a quarterly basis, and we report to them. And so in 2005, the board terminated that manager and hired Hilltop Securities and JP Morgan. So we've been managing the pool since 2005 with no issues. I would say your biggest benefit right now, well, your two biggest benefits in considering this option is, one, you're gonna make a little bit more money, you're gonna get more yield. Two is diversification. You guys need to have some other options. You don't wanna keep all your eggs in one basket. And one thing I always give my clients the analogy of is, for your entity, you have what we call an investment toolbox. And inside the toolbox, you typically are gonna have a depository account, right? Because you can't write checks off of this. You'll have a depository account, you might have a CD or two, you're gonna have a couple investment pools. Doesn't mean you're using them all right now, because when you're using them will depend on what the market conditions are, what your city's objectives are, what your cash flows look like, but you wanna have those tools to use when it's time. The beauty of both of these pools is if you set the account up, or if your staff sets an account up, they're not obligated to make a minimum balance or make a minimum deposit. They can make a deposit. It may take them 3 months, 3 years. Set the account up, there's no charge because you haven't put any money in it, or there's no fee associated at a zero balance. It's whenever you're ready to utilize it. What I find with most entities is that they get comfortable, they go with both of the pools, they start investing in their government-only pool, get comfortable with it, and once they get comfortable with the way it works, then they start looking for more yield, and then they start going into Logic. So it's something that, most of our clients, I see them do.
Who with the city would be watching this? Coordinated for the city?
Investment policy.
Yeah, it's in your investment policy, that needs to be updated along with that. But this is getting things set up so I can start bringing quarterly investment reports to you, as we should be doing, so. So I would be watching it, and we would put the mayor on there as well as the city secretary. And it requires training, like every so often, I think it's every couple of years.
Yeah,
That we're required to do the training.
Yeah, there's investment officer training that is required. Like I said, you have to have a minimum of 2 signers. There's nothing that anything that requires a signature, it has to have 2 signatures. So you get a monthly statement, but there is ongoing CE education that has to be done on like you said, once every 2 years, I think anywhere from 8 to 10 hours.
If you're not writing checks on the account, are you just moving funds from one account to another?
Yes, that's a good question. So you're not writing checks because it's not in a bank account, right?
Yeah.
So, but what you are doing is you're initiating a transaction. So you can do it either through wire or ACH. Most entities do wire. We always strongly recommend wire. The reason why is because if you need to move money and you do it by wire, it will settle that day. If you do it by ACH, it'll settle the next business day. Now, the other thing about it is, on our side, on the investment side, we don't charge. She can move money all day, set up as many accounts as she wants. I mean, we've got clients with hundreds of accounts. What your bank will charge to move money, that's totally up to them. But on this side, there's no charge. You can move money, ACH or wire. You can set up as many accounts as you want. You will use you can use whatever funds. You can keep your bucket separate. And what do I mean by that? We see clients with accounts, your interest and sinking account, your bond construction accounts, your operating account, your general fund account. You can set up as many accounts however you need to do that. We take direction from your staff.
Why would you have hundreds of accounts within Logic and Techstar, or?
Either or.
Either or.
Either or, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really all about your accounting and how you do your books, and whatever GAAP rules require of your finance team.
Can you do Techstar for .055 and Logic for .096?
Just say that. Just say that.
I was like, wait a minute, let me.
Just say that.
Wait a minute.
I can ask.
Unfortunately, she's like, that I don't make that decision on that. That's the board.
I've heard
No,
that
what I will
before.
tell you is that, in terms of the fine print, the investment pool. So Techstar, based upon the policy, it has the ability to charge up to 12 basis points. We only charge 6 basis points. We've always charged 6 basis points. It's never been that high. One of the reasons why we don't price ourselves out the marketplace, we're not gonna do that. It's not necessary. But yeah, we've been charging 6 basis points. I've been at the firm for 13 years working with this, and it's always been 6 basis points. We don't move the fees around. Fees stay what they are.
So Angela, how much are you wanting to invest? Obviously, I'd assume the Wells Fargo CD that matures in July would go on that.
Yes. That matures in July, so we'll need to do something with that this year. And so I thought we'd start with that and get that moved over. And then we need to sit down with our CPA and look, because we really have a lot of money in one account. And to me, it would be better protected, and the interest rate is a little bit better, but, and you can account a little bit better for your funds too, when you've got this over here, and you can always make a move from Logic back to your checking account, if you know you have something that's coming up, like that pipe in the back. If we needed to do emergency monies and make an emergency purchase for that, over there, and we didn't have that much in the account, it can be transferred over and then we're ready to go. I've done that lots of times in
Based
other
on
cities.
liquidity.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very, very quick. It's before the end of business day.
Yeah, if you
So,
do it by wire.
yeah.
And the other thing about, the nice thing about the way we do ours is we, when you do wire, we don't do what's called bundling. Some folks will bundle, meaning they'll wait for all the transactions to come in and then they'll send them out on one fed wire. So let's say Angie initiates a transaction at 8:40, it's going to go on the 9 o'clock wire. Okay, so we don't wait for anything with our clients. As the client initiates the transaction, because the Fed wires run every hour. Whatever hour you're closest to, it's going to be on there. We're not sitting there holding that transaction, waiting for a bundle of transactions to come through and send on the wire. Another reason why we always encourage clients to do wires is because we can follow the money. When you do it through ACH, it's harder to follow the money. We can actually see where that money is. And that really comes into play when we're talking about bond proceeds, delivery date, everybody needs to see that money come in and it needs to come in smoothly. So there's a lot of benefits to it, but it's a very easy process. And I will say our team, I've been with the firm for 13 years in this capacity. The team that really matters is the operation team. So once you move forward, it's really the day-to-day. Brenda Rosnowski, who runs our funds transfer division, she's been there for 18 years, managing that ship. Sochi Perez, who does a new account, she's been there for 13 years. My plan administrator, Marianne Dunda, has been there for 27 years. We've all worked together in our capacities together. So it's a pretty fine-tuned machine. And the portfolio managers for Techstar, the JP Morgan portfolio manager works out of their Ohio office. For Lodge, the portfolio manager works out of the New York office. They have been there for over 25 years managing short-term liquidity. So, you've got a very, very experienced team when you're talking about putting money into any of these vehicles.
Plus, I'm looking at long-term and trying to get a relationship built with Hilltop Securities, because in the future, we're gonna have to start looking at maybe some kind of capital improvement for our infrastructure. And that's, building that relationship with them will help in the future on CO or GO bonds, whichever direction we wanna go, so.
I wasn't gonna go down that rabbit hole, but I guess I will now. Can you explain how that'll help benefit us?
Well, a couple different reasons, and I don't want to speak out of turn in terms of, so Hilltop, we specialize in financial advisory or municipal advisory, so we can assist you in advising if you want to issue debt, if you have some old bonds that need refunding. That's what we do. That's the core of our business. So we can assist you in issuing the debt. And then we have the investment piece, which is the house I fall under. We can help you invest the proceeds, but then we can also help you with the post-issuance compliance. And the reason why post-issuance compliance is important is because right now, because interest rates are so high, you have a yield rate that you're only so allowed to make so much money, right? So because yields are so high right now, a lot of entities that are issuing bonds and they're earning 4.5%, 5%, well over their ARB yield. So you have to do the calculations so that because you have to report that to the IRS, right? So the beauty of it is, if you're utilizing us as a municipal advisor, then you're investing the bond proceeds, we can easily do the calculations and we can put a full plan together for you. And the plan on the arbitrage rebate side that we're seeing clients in right now is that for many years, there was no money to be made. There was no interest. So you can do your calculations, but nobody made money, nothing to rebate back to the IRS. Now there's money to be made. Folks haven't done calculations, so now it's becoming a problem. And the problem with that is, do you have your record keeping for the calculations to be done? So if you do everything in-house, you issue the debt here, you invest the bond proceeds here, we can do the calculations, we can put your plan together. I always tell clients, there's nothing wrong with rebating back to the IRS. The problem is when you don't have a plan. Because when you rebate back to the IRS, what you've essentially done is said, I've made as much money as I can make for our citizens. If the ARB yield is 3%, but you made 5%, you hit that ceiling, you made as much as you could, and then you rebate the rest back to the IRS, right? That says I did everything I could to make the most money for my constituents. And then when we do the calculations, because we do it annually, you report it every 5 years, then we can say, okay, here's the plan. Here's what we're expecting you guys to have to rebate. Let's put a plan together. Let's have some reserves, so when it's time to cut the check, you guys are ready to go. So that's why I'd say it's a benefit because it's a smoother process versus having all 3 different vendors. Then your staff is having to collect data, pull records from everyone. If you're doing it all in one place, we're basically starting you from beginning to end, and it's a smoother process.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
On to item D, discuss and consider possible action on the adoption of resolution number R03-2024-09, a resolution approving the participation in the local government investment cooperative Logic.
Make a motion to approve resolution number R03-2024-09, a resolution approving participation in Logic as presented.
Second.
I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Pappenfuss and a second by Councilmember Yarbrough to approve the adoption of resolution number R03-2024-09, a resolution approving the participation in the local government investment cooperative Logic. Any further discussion?
How are we gonna know if we actually made more money doing this, or if we lost money, or, this is, how are we gonna, what process is to see at the end of the year how we came out?
Quarterly reports.
We'll be reporting that quarterly through your quarterly investment reports as well, so you'll see that, and then we get reports from Logic. They should be sending us a statement. Did she leave? Oh, a statement each month. And that's how, in the past, I've shown that through my quarterly investment report, so.
Then we can compare that with Austin County State Bank to see what they would've gave us for that same time?
They're giving us 5%.
Okay.
And our CD's at like 4.5. But it's only 32,000 at maturity.
It's like 2040 something. I've got it right here.
Have you done these 2 programs before?
Yes, sir.
What
Yeah.
about, you do them when the interest rates were nothing?
I'm sorry?
Did you do them when the interest rates were nothing?
Yes. We
And you still
did
made,
it. Yeah.
okay.
We did it because we wanted the relationship and participation with Hilltop, because I came from a city that didn't have the money. And so we built that relationship, and we built our credit rating up through that and having a diverse portfolio. And that made people look at us more. So when we got ready to issue bonds, we were better looking than what we looked like before. It took several years for us. Y'all are in much better shape.
Well, that's what
And-
I was gonna
and
ask.
so
It does
the-
increase our points then for
Yeah,
borrowing?
and it's the diversity that you need in order to comply with the Public Investment Act. And we don't have that diversity. And I've talked to Michael about that when I first got here, but like what you have at the bank is great. I'm not saying lose the bank, but the payment delay is 25 days. I mean, it's all right here. I've got it all. And the maturity is in 2043 for their investments. So we've got to have something, I think, that's more diverse. I did check with the vice president today, and we are secure at $250,000 with FDIC, but then there's bonds that cover the rest of that. And it just makes me very nervous to have the amount of money you have in that account.
So are you looking to keep
Yeah, those-
250,000
yes, we
there, and then the
absolutely-
rest, all of it
yes.
will be in either one of these
Yes.
programs?
Because you have things right now, I think you have a CIP fund. They're not named on the account like normally. So I have to really look and see what the account numbers are, but I think you have a CIP account, and that could be sitting over there making a little bit more interest than what you're getting right now. And that would be a good place to start, so that if you did have to go out for grant money or issue debt, whatever, to get the infrastructure worked on, you've got some place to put it, like she talked about on the bonds and the funding. So, I like working with Logic. I don't have a lot with Techstar. I have at other cities, but Logic is the one I have the most experience with. And it's a great opportunity. It did real well for us over at the other city. It really helped them a lot.
One of the questions I was gonna ask her, I didn't get a chance to, she was talking about the interest yield caps. Who sets that? Because she was saying some, like if it's 5%, you could seal in at 3. So who sets that yield? Is it the Treasury Department or is it them on risk?
No, I think it's the Treasury. I think.
It's usually
Maybe
the
in your
feds.
notes.
Hmm?
It's usually the feds at the OCC.
So everyone set the same ceiling?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know if it went by credit or points, what we have. Okay.
So if I understand what you said earlier, both of these accounts have given a higher interest rate return
Mm-hmm.
than ACS for the last year.
Mm-hmm. Techstar's at 5.2969, Logic's 5.726. That's what she reported to you.
And it's
And
immediately,
that was today.
it's immediately liquid.
Mm-hmm. That's the better thing. If we got into a situation where we needed, for emergencies.
Does the city have any outstanding loans?
You do for the park, and I don't believe you have anything else. I know that's through, EDC.
On
And
the
that comes out
4B money,
annually.
can it be moved into something like that, or is that something that has to stay? Can it be moved into these accounts also? I mean, is there any special laws or rules about the 4B money where it can be moved to?
So
No,
I-
we
oh,
put
do you want me-
our 4B money into
Yeah.
Logic.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I've seen other cities do it with Techstar.
Mhm.
And the EDC would pass a resolution, and they'd have it'd sit and meet and do the same thing.
So the money for the 4B will not be moved until the committee gets together and does this resolution, correct?
Right,
Okay.
right. And they would have an agreement they would sign.
Okay.
Yep.
Any further discussion? Councilmember Yarborough?
Aye.
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 Motion passes to adopt resolution number R03-2024-09, resolution approving the participation in the local government investment cooperative Logic. Item E, discuss and consider possible action on the adoption of resolution number R03-2024-10, a resolution approving the participation in the Texas Short-Term Asset Program, Techstar.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number R03 2024-10.
Second.
Have a motion by Councilmember Rodriguez and a second by Councilmember Yarborough to approve resolution number R03-2024-10, a resolution approving the participation in the Texas Short-Term Asset Program, Techstar. Any further discussion? Councilmember Yarborough?
Aye.
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 Motion passes 5-0 to adopt the resolution number R03-2024-10, a resolution approving the participation in the Texas Short-Term Asset Program. Item F, discuss and consider possible action on the adoption of resolution number R03-2024-11, a resolution adopting an investment policy for the city of Godley, Texas.
I'll make a motion.
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number R0324, or 2024-11.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Rodriguez and a second by Councilmember Mize to adopt resolution number R03-2024-11, a resolution adopting investment policy for the city of Godley, Texas. Further discussion?
I do have a question. You said something about needing to update the policy. Were you talking about updating this policy further, or were you talking about this replacing a policy we already have?
This replacing the policy right now, because the one you have currently was last adopted in 2020. This is just getting ready too for auditing, getting everything in place. for
Did
the
I read
auditors.
this as an annual requirement to update
Yes.
this?
Yeah,
So on page 3, the delegation of authority earlier, you mentioned, obviously you'd be the CIO, the other officers would be the secretary and the mayor, but it does not list the mayor on there.
we can add the mayor on there. Right now, I've only put, me and the city secretary, because we're the two signers. But we can add the mayor if you want to. That way, if one of us is not there, the other one can sign or move the money as well, you know.
Does it take two people to move the funds out of Logic and Techstar as
Yes.
well?
Yes, it does, just like it does at the bank. We have two signatures on the check now, and when I do an ACH, I have to upload it, and she has to approve it, or she uploads it and I approve it.
If someone's incapacitated, what are the provisions there?
We do a check and the mayor
I'm the
can
third.
sign.
You're the third?
He's an approver, he's the third.
So that's why you want to add him, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
So, we do have three.
And then on page,
While we're on page 3, let me ask a quick question if I may, Mike. It says investment training is, that the personnel will go to is approved by the council. I'm just
Well,
curious.
they've just approved who's the delegation of authority. So that's who will be required to take the training.
Well, right, but
Your investment officers.
well, it says investment training sessions shall be provided by an independent source approved by the city council. I mean,
It's-
I think if it's an approved source, I think city council shouldn't be approving every
well, we approved.
authorized,
Sorry.
every authorized entity that can teach the class.
Yeah, because most of them are through UNT is where we get most of our training from for Public Investment Act. Or I think COG may have one, but I know UNT does them, and I think COG are the only two.
I mean, my thought there was just if we're sending
can
somebody to
track
training,
that.
that you would, as a knowledgeable person, would be making sure that we're
Yeah.
going down the right path, that it shouldn't have to come back to the council
No,
every
we
time
can
that it's
strike that
approved.
if you want to.
So is that, I interpret that as the council approves the independent source, whether it be UNT, a trade association, like we just approve those, it can't be like Hilltop Securities or Hilltop Holdings or JP Morgan that you go
No,
to.
yeah, you're right. That's what I think it means.
So I interpret that as, we just approve the sources, not approve you to go to training, you're required to go to training.
Right.
Well, right, I understand that. I'm just thinking more on the lines of, the council doesn't approve going to TML training versus somebody else's training. I mean, for all the other stuff, if it's a recognized training that the individual has to go to, I don't think it should have to come back to the council for, that it is a authorized instructor, I guess is my thought.
I'm gonna disagree with you there, Mr. Mayor, because again, we don't know, just going forward, I wanna think about the future and, you know, years down the road, we may all be fired. We may fire her and hire some idiot as, you know, as city manager who, you know, I guess in that case, it wouldn't matter because idiots were approving idiots anyway, but
Just a thought.
I wouldn't mind having the council have the authority to at least look at the training provider. Just as a means of checks and balances.
What was your next question, Mike?
Page 9 for reporting, under the method, it says the report will be provided to the city council. Is that also going to be provided to the citizens?
Say that again?
Page 9, it says the report will be provided to the city council, and it lists what all it will include. Will that also go
On
on the
the-
city website?
Quarterly investment reports? Yes, they will be once, they have to be, once we get started doing them.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. So on page 6, under maximum maturities, it says that the city will not directly invest in securities maturing more than 2 years from the date of purchase. That's why I asked her that question, if they even have any. Are there other, I know this is a broad investment policy, not just for those 2 pools. Are there things that you're looking at 2 years out, or should we reduce that to 1?
Only if you wanted to leave a CD, because to provide diversity, that a lot of times they'll do a CD out that's more than, a 5-year CD. Right now, I don't know how long this one's been, but it just automatically renews every year. So it's really not doing anything right now for that. So that would go towards, if we found a CD that had good interest, we want to, it'd just be another source that we have diversity on our investments.
So on the 2-year, since that's long-term liquidity, are we looking at investing a large sum of money or a very small sum of money?
On the CD
Yeah,
part?
on anything that's over a year long?
No, it wouldn't be a large amount because we'd have to wait until the maturity or take a loss, so we wouldn't do anything really large on that.
Right under that in the diversity, it says it wouldn't exceed more than 25% of what we have available.
Yeah, so
We
the
have a
C,
lot of money available.
Well, I do know that. I do know that.
yeah, because we can just leave that, we can leave that CD and invest it longer if you want to, but our CPA did look at it and they were like, you're not doing very well on that, so you need to go ahead and pull that out. Just their recommendation.
Further questions? So I think the only change I had recorded was adding the mayor to the delegation authority. Did I miss any other, anything else that was
There.
changing?
That was what page again?
Page
Three.
Page 3.
Dean, I think this is a far stretch for this agenda item, but can we go ahead and approve independent sources with this policy? Or like saying trade associations associated with public finance, or UNT has a lot.
Yeah, I thought that was part of the discussion. I mean, do y'all wanna, it has a definition there for instance.
Like I know, thought you want it to come back to council for approval, but at the same time, they do have 12 months to take it, but if we start investing money, you probably already have all this, but the mayor needs it, you probably need it. I don't want them investing money that they don't really know what they're investing.
Without knowing what we're doing? I second that.
So is that too far of a stretch for this agenda?
No, I wouldn't say so. I mean, you have a motion on the floor, so it sounds like there's an amendment to the motion that includes identifying a source and also adding the mayor. I don't know who wants to make that motion. I think you take that one first,
I don't remember
if
whose
that's what
motion
y'all
it
want to
was.
do.
It was Council Member Rodriguez's and second by Councilmember Mize.
Just to approve the resolution as was without,
Yeah.
so you could amend your motion if you like.
Anybody can make a motion to amend it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
I'm not allowed to make motions.
So not anybody.
I'm sorry, any council member can make a motion.
Just kidding around. What do we need to do? We need to amend it such that the mayor is added as
Delegated.
signatory,
Yeah.
and what was the other one?
Independent source. Make a motion to amend the motion to add under section B, delegation of authority, add the mayor as an investment officer, and under training requirement in the same section, independent source be any trade association that the city joins, UNT or COG as approved independent sources. All others will go back to council for approval.
Second.
Have a amendment to the motion adding the mayor as an investment officer in section B and adding in section,
Same section, training requirement.
also in section B, any trade association, UNT or COG. Any further discussion? Councilmember Yarbrough.
Aye.
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 I'm sorry. So, vote passed 5-0 for the amendment, adding the mayor as an investment officer in section B and adding any trade association with UNT or COG. Now, we still have, if I'm correct, parliamentarian, we still have an active motion on the floor.
I think that resolves the
The
motion. right?
amendment resolves.
Or you've,
We amended the motion,
the motion was broad enough to,
so now we still have an active motion.
did
don't
the
we?
motion also approve the item?
So we amended her motion.
Okay.
Traditionally, she would amend her own motion, but,
Yeah, do it again, do the next one for approval then.
Okay, so we
Let's-
still have a motion on the floor. Made by Councilmember Rodriguez, second by Councilmember Mize to adopt resolution R03-2024-11, a resolution adopting investment policy for the city of Godley, Texas, with adding the mayor in section B as investment officer and any trade association, UNT or COG. Any further discussion? Councilmember Yarbrough?
Aye.
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 Motion passes 5-0. Item G, discuss and consider possible action to approve the proposal from Civic Plus for an upgrade of the city website, mass notification and online reservation, and payment module for the Park Pavilion with cost not to exceed $31,014 and authorizing the city administrator to execute said contract for services.
I know that you've all been looking at wanting to update the city website and make it more user-friendly. Civic Plus is one of the better user-friendly websites that most municipal governments use. And one of the options that I really like is the mass notification system, which is sometimes used, the terminology is sometimes used as reverse 911. They actually will go in and gather up all the landline numbers in the city, put those in first, and then we will go out through our utility billing and ask if anybody would like to sign up for it. And they can either sign up or they can have us sign them up for it. But that will be through a landline phone. through cell phone, voicemail, or text messaging, or dialing, calling the cell phone, I can't even think. So that's the mass notification system, and we can use it for power outages that we know of. We can use it for boil water notices or anything that has to do with the water department. We can use it for emergency management, for tornado warnings or anything like that. The sirens are for people that are out in the park, but I know I have used that in the past at cities I've lived at, and I would know, getting a text message from the city of Saginaw that a street was shut down. So I would know to go another route. So that's my favorite feature that was quoted in this, other than the fact that you'll completely get to be a participant in redesigning the website, because they'll make you a part of that. We'll bring that information to the council, let them look at it, let them vote on it, make changes. But it is a higher price. To the initial investment is $31,013.90, and an annual recurring fee of $10,304. Right now, you pay about $8,500 annually for what you have right now. Now, I don't know what it costs to get you started, but I know that's what the last invoice I got was for the update for the year.
Is this something that we need to have to go out for RFQ for, since it's,
We can go, we can go look at some of the other ones. I can tell you that they're not as user-friendly as this. Some of the other ones that I've looked at in the past, on the side of your residence, what I mean user-friendly, not for us, but on the side of your user, and it's to get your residents to use your website more. They would also be able to use Park Pavilion and go ahead and set that up if they want to reserve it for that day. They can pay for it on that day. So it does a lot of different things, but I can go out and look at others. This is one I've had a lot of experience with and I've worked with for a lot of years. The one you currently have is more antiquated, I think. And some of the other ones, a couple of the other ones are pretty antiquated as well. They haven't really upgraded a lot, but this is the most updated version.
Is Civic,
I'm
sorry,
sorry,
go
with
ahead.
this, they also do it every 5-year annual upgrade. So every 5 years, as part of your contract, they go in and you revamp your website and give it a facelift every 5 years. So it doesn't look stale or outdated. So that's also part of this that I forgot to mention.
It's template based, right? So you guys can update it as you wish. What I've noticed with Civic Plus and looking around on it, on various city websites, is that Civic Plus appears to have better organization. They look better. They're easier to find information than some of the other vendors that I've seen. I don't know if that's a function of the people running the website or if it's a function of Civic Plus, but it is something that I've noticed. Is it seems to be a just better laid out, easier to find things. Easier to find quick, relevant information that a citizen would want to have.
And we design that, so they'll give us several options, you know, if you always want a floating calendar on the right, or if you want it on the left, or I like a floating calendar on the front page, because right beside it, it tells all the events that are taking place, council meetings, Easter egg event, you know, all P&Z meeting on this night, whatever on this night, barbecue supper at the fire station. I mean, it's right there, right in the center, so when you pop up, all the things that you see that you want to do. And then on each page, you can add a calendar. If we had the pavilion as a rec center and there were actual things going on at that rec center or that pavilion, like dance class or whatever, you could put those events on there as well. So there's just so many different options with it. that there's another, website that's called something.gov, I can't remember it. Maybe it's government something, isn't it? I think called government. And it's almost exactly like what we have now. So I've looked around at several of them myself, and I just know this just looks so much cleaner, and it is so much more user-friendly on the other side. They can sign up for Notify Me. It'll send them messages of when agendas are published, posted, council meetings are. They can sign up for different events to be notified for. They can also notify us of, kind of like what iWorks does, of different things that are going on, you know, if there's a pothole or whatever. But we can also put iWorks on there too as a link as well. So there's a lot of people that use the it's called Report of Concern is what they call it. And so they can turn in different things, high grass, whatever. So,
Is the ultimate implementation line item, is that the move from what we have now? So you guys don't have to jack with any of that. They're gonna do that for the 10 grand.
and they'll move all your minutes, they'll migrate all the agendas, minutes, everything that you have on your website now.
Well, that's a separate fee. That's $600.
Right, it is.
$600.
But I mean, they do all of that. They do everything.
The terms, initial term invoice schedule, 100% invoiced on signature date. So we're gonna lay out, what was it, $30-something thousand immediately? Or are we gonna wait till they
Well,
finish the job?
we would wait till they're finished.
What does that mean then?
Well, once they get finished, after they get through with the implementation,
I see signature date as the date we sign the contract. Is that not true?
yes, but I've never paid it right on the day of that. I never have, so, unless they've changed it.
Maybe something to ask them about, I don't know.
And it could be that they have to have that. They may want a deposit of half of it, because they put a lot of work in. They have designers go in and start designing for you.
I get that part, but
Yeah.
paying them 100% of it right up front, I don't know about, you know.
I do like the emergency notification system, since a lot of our residents are out of the siren range. The high school cannot hear the siren, the new developments cannot hear the tornado sirens, so that is a plus there.
Does the school have its own emergency management system? Just out of curiosity, now that you mentioned that, I didn't think about
I
that.
don't have any idea. I would think that they have some kind of a notification system, do they?
I think I've seen posts where family members have said they've received notifications and stuff, but
They probably do.
I don't have kids in school.
Maybe
Yeah,
about school
they have a-
closings
they
and
have a
stuff like that.
base program that
But
does
it's probably not a mass notification system. It's like
So
a,
I can't remember the program names, my wife uses it on the parent square.
oh,
It
yeah.
basically tells you anything and everything. I stopped paying
Yeah.
them because they sent me everything.
And
I
they
mean,
actually just opened a new program for people that don't have kids in school, that you can still sign up, because I just signed up for it last week. That they'll send you you can check what you want to be notified on, and they'll send you those notifications for people that don't, like my grandkids are in school, but for the parents that aren't on that program. So other citizens can also sign up for all that also.
You know, we could knock off the reservation part of it, and it would bring it down a little bit, but
Do we
it's
need,
that pay implementation for it. It's not much, but
Where are you talking about?
on the pay,
Yeah, I got you, but which line item is it? I don't
the
know.
online payment module,
It's on page 2,
page 2,
where it says pay Forte and then pay annual Forte.
it's not very much. It's $17.85 and $1,500. But I wanted to add that
It's
because
like
we've had
$3,200.
so many people asking us if we had a way of doing reservations online and they could pay for it online.
And then
Who pays the merchant fees on that? Do they include all that in there, or are we still paying merchant fees for the credit card transactions? Well, I say passing them through, I guess, so I guess it wouldn't matter.
I think normally with Encode, didn't we do
It's a pass-through.
it's a
So
pass-through
the
on
cost is on the person who pays, just like they would do with their utility
Right.
payment or their court payment, it's a pass-through fee.
Gotcha.
So we don't pay any cost.
Mhm.
1,500 is one time, the 1,785 is annual, right?
Right.
So having built websites for companies and individuals in the past, some of these fees are very exorbitant. I understand they are one of the best. They are a little bit more expensive because of that. But like the hosting and security annual fee of $11.88,
Mm-hmm.
your SSL management is cheap. Your DNS and domain hosting setup, I guess they have to do some back-end work on that, but not much. Your domain hosting annual fee, I'm not sure why they're charging us that, because .gov is free. Ever since 2006.
I thought we're paying domain fee right now, but
We pay for what?
I was like, I thought we paid, I thought I've seen us have to pay a domain fee for something before.
Shouldn't, unless it's with the Google suite.
I think it is. I was like, I know we pay a domain fee for something. I can't say that with this website though, it is very, like, you can use it on your cell phone, it's very user friendly. I have experience with it as well as creating from scratch, so.
You just choose a template and go, right?
You can choose a template or create from scratch. I've done both.
On the annual fee, annual recurring, that 10,304, does that include the 1785 every year for the pay annual?
On the online payment module? Is that what you're
Yeah.
talking about?
Yeah, so where the annual recurring services,
Mm-hmm.
does that include that 1785?
No.
No, so it's 10,304 plus 1785?
Right. I think so. I think that's correct.
Will the website have access to all of our city ordinances, and if somebody wants to know something about how to, any ordinance or any kind of rule we have, like it's supposed to be on our webpage now, will that be on this one?
Well, we have a link right now to your
What now?
current, we have a link right now to your current, on your current website that
Yes.
goes to your, American Legal Publishing that does your code of ordinances. That's already there, so that'll go
Just
right
bring it
over.
over?
Uh-huh.
Well, one, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's what I was asking.
It'll be the same. It'll be linked in and it'll say code of ordinances.
Are we gonna get away from M-Legal ever?
Yeah, I'd like to.
Get
Get
away
away
from
from American
illegal.
Legal.
And I think that's better than have everything at Glenn's house, Glenn's computer.
Well, it'd just be another third party that hosts all of our ordinances that we send them to us, and they're much more user-friendly. But that's a different subject.
On the renewal procedure, it says it's an automatic one-year renewal term. Last week, I think it was, Lindsay said we should not get into a contract that has automatic renewals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Unless
I
we do
could-
a 60-day
You're looking at me.
notice.
So what I would do is I would take what you have here, and if you're looking there at the fine print, there's a reference to a master agreement. When you pull up those master agreements, usually they're 20 or 30 pages worth of additional contract documents.
Mhm.
So we always review all those, and then we strike through them and we modify them. One thing that we do is with the annual appropriations, you don't really have evergreen contracts. That's what some of them will call, where you have automatic renewals or terms that go beyond the current fiscal year. So we would add provisions that would limit the automatic renewals there, and that's what she's referring to. You can't agree to fund beyond the current fiscal year. So like, but a lot of them will say, well, this is our business model. And so what we do is we push back on them. We'll add an appropriations clause that will say that we're not obligated. If the council doesn't fund in year 2, it's automatically terminated.
Well, I think we just ran into that with the trash company, and they did it without, and we got stuck in a 5-year contract, so that's why we don't wanna do that anymore with any
Yeah.
contracts.
Your trash company is gonna be a little bit different because it's a franchise agreement. So those are a little bit different, but in general, that's right. That's right, because when you agree to fund beyond your current fiscal year, you might be incurring a debt, unlawful debt. And that's why we add language that cuts that out.
The other question I have is, do we really have 12 employees that would need 3 hours of training 6 times?
No, all this will be adjusted. This is just a quote. There'll be
Just-
some adjustments on all this.
Just checking.
Yeah. No. But we could have up to 12 if we wanted to.
Just gotta hire more.
Me to call them and see if they'll do it for 29?
Yep.
Yeah, you try to negotiate that if you want to.
Yep.
Angie, is there anything else that we could use to pay annual for to give us a better, return on investment with that? Besides just the pavilion reservation fees?
Oh, yeah, we can add some other things. I don't know what that would be right now. You know, as we get bigger and grow or whatever, there could be, well, there is a way to do the payment for the online payment for the utility billing. So that'll be an option on there. Municipal court will have they will have the ability to pay, and it'll take them in. They also set up, and I think it's through this payment module as well, where they can call in. They can actually call in. I believe it's through this. I don't know, I'm getting my wires crossed between Encode and them. But they can, there's a module that you can get where they can just call and pay it themselves. And they don't even have to go, well, we can't take a payment over the phone anyways. But on this, they can pay them all online if they
What about
want to.
citations online?
They can, they
Through
will be
this
able
module?
to. We'll just, yeah, we'll have a link that goes to Encode. We'll have to make sure that we're all set up with Encode for that.
Mhm.
But- And it's kinda like right now, if you pay your water bill online, you gotta know what you paid, or your account number, or what you paid the last month, something like that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a way to know it's you. With municipal court, she did a lot of her payments online, so,
Yes.
and through the phone service.
Both. I think the online just allows people for convenience. It's just a lot more convenient. Everybody's life's just moving so fast. So a lot of those options, like right now, even with the court, she could offer a lot more options, online requests. You can contact each department directly a lot easier that way online. I noticed that when we changed to Civic Plus, it did allow for people to just reach out to us with complaints or anything a lot quicker than having to wait on a phone call.
Yeah.
It just was really convenient.
How long did you use them, Angie?
A long time, like 6 years? I did.
Well,
Or you
over
did,
there,
Carter?
since the early 90s.
This contract looks like the annual uplift, which I'm assuming is a increase in price, 5% to be applied in year 2.
In year
So we're
two.
gonna have a 5% increase no matter what, year after year.
Probably, yes. Most of the time it is a 5%. They have gone up. I do know that. I know they've increased their cost. For sure. But a lot of times if you're gonna if we were to redesign the current website that we have, it'd cost us money. We're paying for that redesign every 5 years in this contract. So it doesn't cost us anything extra. So it'll always be updated, facelift. About every 5 years.
Our current website was gonna charge us 22,000 some change and lock us into a 5-year contract. That was back in September. That was for.
That's highway robbery, man. I'm in the wrong business.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I told the guy. So since Civic Plus has so many different modules, are we going to start weaning ourselves off iWorks? Cause they have the same exact modules.
We don't have to. It can be used, you know, we have a new code enforcement officer, and iWorks would be great for code enforcement to use. We utilized iWorks for our code enforcement officer, cause it's great, cause you can upload photographs and build your cases and stuff on that. And then when you get ready to go to court, you just hit print, and that whole case is there, ready to go. So I would think utilizing it that way would be great. You don't have to, I mean, I wouldn't wean it out, I'd keep it, because it can be used in other places,
I would
other
take
areas.
the water portion away, because it's hard to keep track of the water side. Cause you have Encode for your day-to-day, which is your utility billing, your service orders, your meter swaps. If you have those requests coming over here, it's just hard to keep up with them. I'd rather train them to use this software that we're already paying for utilities, as well as like service orders and meter changes, and then we could use the requests for concerns. That, it would just be easier for that. I would say code enforcement is it for iWorks.
Yeah, because it's double work.
It is.
If you're doing, you know, because we want to utilize Encode because it has all the addresses in it, and it's our financial software, plus it's your UV software, and it's all the history of every address in the city. So to me, you ought to utilize it for that, for water stuff. You know when the meters have been changed, you know when they've had leaks. It's a way to retrieve your history on that particular address. So if we use iWorks for the water and use Encode as well, it's just double the work. So you're gonna lose something somewhere along the way.
So whenever I called Tyler Technologies last year, they said if we upgrade to Encode 10, which is the cloud-based one, we can actually, it will work with iWorks.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been told to kind of hold off on Encode 10.
Yeah, there's
As
been a lot
long
of
as we
issues.
can.
I mean,
They're having-
people that I hear that have it, it's
They're
not
having
the greatest
issues
right now.
now.
They're still getting out the nicks. If you think about it, I think we're on 9.1 right now, so. But
Yeah.
being cloud-based has its pros and its cons as well, so. I think
It's
getting-
only cloud-based?
Encode 10.
Encode 10 is
Yeah,
solely?
10 is solely cloud-based. But I think right now, just getting processes and everything before, that'll be something that we'll have to look at in the future. But right now, we just really need to get these processes and get this website going and everything so that we can just build from there
And we're trying to use Encode
to the full
to
of
the,
its ability.
yeah, to its ability, because it hasn't been used to the max of its ability, and it
If
does
you
a
use it
lot of
for-
things.
Yeah,
so.
if you use it for water, you're tracking your water logs. If you have your water leaks, there's so many things that you can do
Mhm,
that can simplify going from two places, because you will lose data that way.
mhm.
And 9 is on premise, it's running on our servers.
Yes.
Is 10 subscription-based?
I don't know, I haven't really, I've seen it, and I've heard about other people using it, other municipalities and other clerks and stuff that I've worked with, and everybody's not really great on it. It's been out a while, but it still has kinks.
Our accountants didn't wanna go to 10 either, did they?
They were
I
telling
remember
us
that.
to wait until all of the kinks were worked out of it as well.
How long has it been out?
A few years.
At least 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, 3 or
that I
4
know
years.
of.
That long?
And
But
it's
they
That doesn't
have
sound good.
issues. They've been having a lot of issues with it.
But it was also hard to find someone too that could come and train on 9, because there wasn't, a lot of cities were going to 10.
Right.
Back to the agenda item.
Was this something that we, attempted to put in the budget for this year?
If we did something like that, I would ask that we wait. I just wanted to make sure, I wanted to get you a quote for you to look at, because we had talked about it several times. There's some, we can look for monies for it, but we can wait until, get it ready for budget time if we needed to. But I've been asked about it several times, so I wanted to make sure you saw what that cost will pretty close to be.
There's plenty of IT upgrade line items in all the different budgets.
Yeah, there was extra money. And there's a court technology fund, and it
Are we-
will
We did spend a
thought we
lot of our
spent some
IT
too.
technology money on,
That was one budget, a little over, but yeah, one budget.
So if we spent that, the one line was what, 220? Was it 220? And then plus we added technology funds in there to make the difference?
And there's still funds that would support this on court technology.
There is.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And y'all need to start spending that kind of money so that, you know, if you ever get audited, you can show we're spending those funds, we're collecting them, and we're spending them. That's the whole reason I'm getting them.
Well, then I'd like to make a motion to go ahead, if we have the money available already in the line items that we've budgeted for, and use that money to go ahead for the 31,014. And that way we can get the website up and running for the citizens to be more user-friendly.
I'll second that.
have a motion by Councilmember Rodriguez and a second by Councilmember Yarbrough, that if we have the money already budgeted to approve the Civic Plus upgrade of the city website, mass notification, online reservation, and payment module for the Park Pavilion with cost not to exceed $31,014, and authorizing the city administrator to execute said contract for services. Further discussion?
Yes, I would like to, we were talking about the term, I would like to see this draft. On the renewal procedure, it does say automatic one-year renewal unless 60 days notice. Could we get that taken out?
So all you need to do is just authorize the city administrator to negotiate, subject to approval by the city attorney. Because we're gonna have a lot more changes.
So before we vote on that, are we gonna find where the money's gonna come from?
As she just said, the technology fund is already still in there.
30-some
There's some
thousand.
funds still left.
So we're gonna
Well,
hold off on that.
The motion was also if it's there.
Yeah.
So if it's not there,
It's
it's a
there.
dead.
So can we pull it out of 521-2150, which is communications, radios, and data systems for emergency management, has 15,000 in it. Street had, I believe, something in it.
I've got the total amount that's in court technology, not what's just on that budget sheet, like the total amount that's in that.
Do we have enough to pay for this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
I just wanna make sure that if we
Oh,
approve
yeah.
it, it's not an if.
There was well over 60, there's like nearly $70,000 in there that hasn't been used. And we only had to end up using like about $4,000 or $5,000 to do the upgrade, because you had already budgeted $220,000 for infrastructure, so.
And are we going to embed our video system in the new website?
They have that.
Yeah, they do have the
They do
ability
have
to
that,
do
but we
that.
have to get that cost.
Mhm.
But they do have that where you could have it, they could click different segments and it'll break it down. Those are options. We would just have to get that cost and add that in.
But that's also
already
a
built into
software that
ours.
does that. That's a separate software that does that. It's not our streaming. We can add it, our streaming that you're doing now, but what she's talking about, that's actually a software, that's an agenda software that goes with the recording.
So that our
So we
system
could
currently
stream,
does that.
you could stream this on our website.
So you can embed the video, but if we use Agenda Link
Yeah,
or
but
our agenda software, then it'll automatically do all that.
no, that's a different software in order to do what she's talking about, where you go to the agenda item and then it plays the video.
Yes, we pay for that.
For what?
It's a part of our AV system.
Oh, okay. Well, then we
already
just
paid
have to check out and see if that works. I didn't know you had that kind of video
Yes.
where you can attach it to your agenda. Okay,
And what-
yeah,
what
we
is
can look at that.
through?
Yeah, what is it through?
I wasn't aware.
Cloud-driven
Me neither.
solutions.
Can you provide me that information? I mean, I
It's-
wasn't aware of that.
It's AJ. Thompson.
Okay.
So in my motion also to give you direction to do as the attorney said and negotiate this contract to get rid of that section if possible.
Do you want to amend your motion?
No, I would still add to it.
Really?
Yeah. Yes, I,
Do you want to amend your
yes,
motion?
I do. I'd like to amend my motion to approve the 31,014 with direction to the staff to negotiate the contract and try to get removed the automatic renewal procedure and any other that the attorney feels needs to be negotiated.
So I think our guidance there was to amend for city administrator to negotiate the contract with the attorney's approval.
Yeah.
And that'll take care of all the other.
It sounds like we might be overlapping. I don't know one way or the other about this, but it sounds like we have some of this stuff here, and we have some of it here, and now we're gonna pay for it here. Do we have technology overlapping other technology that we currently have, and we're paying twice for it?
If I may, 1 second, Roger. We
How
have
about you?
a motion on the floor.
I'll let you ask for a discussion, I'm sorry.
No, we have a, Councilmember Rodriguez amended her motion with direction to the city administrator to negotiate the contract with the attorney's approval.
I'll second the amendment.
Okay. Now we're at discussion, sir.
Are we sure we're not overlapping what technology of what we have and don't have? I mean, what we may have in other software? It just sounded like he was talking about, we have this available now, do we have it here? Do we know exactly what we have everywhere? Does our system work now?
Roger, if I may, what she was talking about was a module that could be added to the new website to do
Yep.
what Thompson's, AJ's stuff already does. So we don't have to have it yet. We haven't got it yet.
Okay.
We'll just talk about it.
I wasn't aware that we had that.
Okay, I'm
'Cause
not
I haven't
either.
been
That's why I
informed
wanna
of
know if
that.
we're not paying for something twice is what I'm
No,
asking.
we wouldn't be, because if I wouldn't buy it, because it would be an additional type of software. I had no idea we already had that software, haven't been told that. I didn't know that this recording system attaches to an agenda software.
Yes, yeah, I did know that.
Neither one of us knew that, so.
These are modules.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting this one. These are extra that we could get. That could be the video system, but we're not getting it.
Okay.
So we're not paying for it. We're just paying for this.
All right.
Further discussion? So this is the vote on amending the motion.
Aye.
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 Now we'll vote on the actual motion, which is giving staff direction, city administrator, to approve the contract, or with the attorney's approval on the contract, to authorizing her to approve the proposal from Civic Plus for an upgrade of the city website, mass notification, online reservation, and payment module for the Park Pavilion with cost not to exceed $31,014, and authorizing city administrator to execute said contract. Councilman Yarbrough.
Aye.
Aye.
What?
Can you,
Do you want to call for discussion? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Discussion on the amendment.
discussion on the original motion, yes.
So has Jamie Moore mentioned anything more about rolling out the countywide 911?
Did what?
Has Jamie Moore mentioned, emergency manager, has he mentioned anything more about rolling out the countywide?
Not in the meetings I've been to yet.
Something that's supposed to come out in the next year. But I assume that we could take that out in the next contract.
Yeah, on the notification system? Yeah, I mean, you could, if the county's gonna do the same thing, Are they gonna make them sign up for it and cost anything for it?
Plan to be free.
I'll
but
reach,
that could change.
I'll reach out to Jamie tomorrow and find out and see if it's compatible with this stuff or what they're actually looking at. Any further discussion? Councilmember Yarborough.
Aye.
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 Motion is approved 5-0. Item H, discuss and consider possible action approving the refund of $12,250 to the Texas Department of Agriculture, Texas Community Grant CDV 21-0353.
You've all already received a notification from Ray Van that, this had expired, this grant had expired. With that, then I got a notification of the amount of $12,500 that needed to be refunded back to the TDA. And I'm assuming, I have no idea what that money was spent for, but I guess it was the first draw or something, or a draw on that money. And so that's what is needed to be refunded back.
Was this money, used to purchase those meters?
No, this was the valve replacement for the 60-something valves that were gonna be replaced around. They couldn't find a bunch of them. It was a whole slew of issues.
So what'd they spend the 12.5 on, do you know?
That's what Ray Van charged for the initial.
Grant proposal? Yeah, but it was a grant writer who did all the initial
Well,
work.
we're paying TDA, I believe, right?
Yeah, it was a draft or a draw that you took on that. So
That you said that
that's
was-
who we're paying back, cause you already, I assumed you paid him that money. You will owe him another $3,000 after this for the for his final payment.
It's something we applied for. It was going great. And everything happened. Didn't go great.
Make motion to approve item H in its entirety.
I'll second it.
I have a motion by Councilmember Yarborough and a second by Councilmember Rodriguez to approve item H in its entirety. Further discussion? Councilmember Yarborough.
Aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0. Item I, discuss and consider taking possible action to approve the expenditure in the amount of $26,400.08 for Texas Municipal League Workers' Compensation Audit Adjustment and the deductible from the 2023 Thompson case.
Make motion to approve item I in its entirety.
I'll second.
Have a motion from Councilmember Yarborough and a second from Councilmember Mize to approve item I in its entirety. Discussion? Councilmember Yarborough?
Aye.
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 Motion passes 5-0. Item J, discuss and consider possible action on the RFQ for city auditor and RFQ for forensic auditing services.
You had in your packet 2 RFQs, one from Edie Bailey, and then the Witham Smith plus Brown PC that had responded to your RFQ initially for forensic services. And then the other one's by Brooks Watson and Company. That one was the only one we received for the last year's audit and this coming year's audit. And that will, if we get started with them, they will start this summer on that process, so we will be on schedule. So,
Did anyone find any difference real difference between A.D. Bailey and Witham as far as the forensic audit goes? Looked like the qualifications were about the same, the experience was about the same, the companies have about the same reputation, so, but there's no, I'm assuming they didn't get back to you on the price, right?
I had one get back with me of an estimate,
Uh-huh.
and then they gave me the line items of everything they look at, that they're looking for, basically what's in a forensic audit. One gave me an estimate of about $15,000.
Who? Do you remember?
Ed Bagley. And I didn't get any response back from the other. But you and I spoke about the fact that the only difference I could really tell in these is that one's in Fort Worth.
That's
and
true,
one's
right,
in
that's right.
Abilene, and so sometimes with auditors, you get charged travel time. So there could be a savings, you know, since it's a local metroplex.
And I forgot which one
Auditor.
is in Abilene.
Witham Smith.
Is that Ed Bailey? So they want estimated 15K, but they're might charge for mileage, et cetera.
They may. I wouldn't
I don't know.
doubt it.
That's not specified in the proposal? Travel
I don't
time?
think so.
No, I didn't see it. Really no pricing at all because it's just a
Yeah,
RFQ.
it's just a qualification.
Are we ready for the forensic part? Are we good as far as having all that we need to do for that?
I haven't, I mean, you're talking about doing 2018 to 2022?
Uh-huh.
There are tons of records that need to be gone through. We'll just have to pull the records, just like we're gonna have to do when our auditors come. You know, we'll have to find the records. Or you get a mark.
Do we need to hire some temps?
No. No, we'll do it ourselves.
On the
Could
record
be.
keeping for the finances, how long are those supposed to be maintained?
The records for the finances?
Yes, ma'am.
Usually between 2 to 5 years, depending on what it is.
It has
So-
a records retention schedule.
I'm sorry?
There's a records retention schedule that pertains to each department.
So if we're looking at a forensic
it-
audit for 5 years ago, we could be looking at stuff that we wouldn't have the records to produce.
Could,
would
depending on what it
kinda-
is, like some, I mean, you're talking about financial records being like, deposit slips, daily cash collections, reports that come off of Encode, and.
Bank reconciliation.
Bank reconciliation, all those things go into this big pile in finance. And so then we have to separate what those all are and what the retention schedule is for each one of them. So, and some of them have different, like I said, so most of the time it's between 2 to 5 years, depending on what it is. Audits are permanent. The audit itself is permanent. I would think that that's the first thing they're gonna wanna look at, is the audit, to see if there's any findings in the audit. And then they'd work themselves backwards. That's just my thoughts. To see any flags that came up during those audits, or any findings, I should say.
And with a forensic audit, want to start with the most current yearly audit that we don't have done yet?
We didn't include that. You included 2018 to 2022.
22.
I will say, whenever Mr. Nelson came to City Hall to give his last RFQ proposal, pretty financial savvy, and that guy blew my mind.
Is he from Witham?
He was the only one that submitted it last time.
Did he give you any estimate of cost?
Just depends on what, how deep we wanna go as they find things with any company. They're gonna have to go down that rabbit hole. and see
They'll
if it meets
interview
anyway.
people, they'll do interviews.
Everybody will lawyer up.
Normally they're just asking you questions on what your processes are, how things are handled, who has access to certain things. And it's not anything which you'd like need a lawyer unless it's normally just your day-to-day stuff. If you're doing it right, you don't need anybody to help.
We're creating a baseline for our new employees to have something to work on.
I get you, it was a joke.
Well, we have our purchasing policy in place, so, That's one of the first things that normally when you have a forensic audit, I've been told, I've never had one, that they will come back and say, well, they weren't following the purchasing procurement of the state. That's what we find, you know, a PO wasn't issued, or that purchase was over $5,000 without 3 quotes. A lot of times they say that's what you get back, unless it's just out and right. You know, finances weren't being taken care of. And so I was told, again, by our CPA, that would be founded in your audit. And if there's those findings are not in your audit, most of the time it's gonna be policy problems. That was his response to a forensic, cause I've never been through a forensic audit. And I didn't know what to expect. So. But yeah, finding all the records that they might need, I think everything they're gonna need, they could probably find in those audits.
Say again?
I think everything that they could find will probably be in those audits, because the auditors have already audited those years. But I don't know that for certain.
So an RFQ, Dean, what do? You accept the RFQ? Is that what you do? And then,
Yep. And then authorize Angie to negotiate.
Being 2 different RFQs.
2 different, that's right. Mhm.
all right, I'm gonna make a motion to accept the RFQ from Witham for the forensic audit. And of course, Brooks, Watson and Co. For,
2 separate motions, sir.
it's
Two
both here.
2 RFQs, Dean just said needs to be 2 separate motions.
Oh, in one line item, we need 2 separate motions?
It's easier for the record if we have
Okay.
2 separate.
Well, I'll amend the motion then to accept Witham as the forensic auditor.
I'll second that.
I have a motion by Councilmember Yarborough and second by Mayor Pro Tem Pappenfuss to accept the RFQ from Witham for the forensic audit. Any further discussion?
Why
Yeah.
with them
that was
instead
my
of the other
question.
guy? I mean, just.
Because they are locally based. Angie and I were talking about price. They didn't get back to us with a price, but these guys are locally based, so the other ones are in Abilene, probably might charge travel time. And also I took into consideration that Mike was impressed with the guy from Witham when he was here.
Where are they based out of?
I think they got a Fort Worth office.
Only thing I just saw the New Jersey office.
They're based out of New Jersey, but he's based out of, I think, East Fort Worth.
Okay.
You might save a little money on travel expenses that way.
Do you know them?
Me? No, just from whenever I met with him.
I mean, in looking at the 2 companies, they look equally well-received, and their people are equally trained, certified, et cetera. And really, it just came down to price for me.
We set out the qualifications in our RFQ, so they're gonna meet those qualifications and basically be the same no matter what.
Yeah.
And he's submitted it twice. He really wants it.
I mean, if you significantly higher, $25,000 or something like that, then maybe we'll revisit it. But if it's, you know what to do. You know how to deal with it.
I just don't believe that looking back 5 years is only going to cost us $15,000 on a forensic
Yeah.
audit anyway. I mean, if they're coming back with a number like that of $15,000, I don't believe that.
Probably
It
based
seems
on the
cheap.
starting price.
It seems cheap, but yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's the
probably
starting
so.
point.
Yeah, because it says that the Witham is in New Jersey,
They're New Jersey and Fort Worth.
because I don't see Fort Worth on here.
Nelson is based out of Fort Worth. The company is based out of New Jersey.
There are guys coming out of Fort Worth, is what it is.
Nelson.
Any further discussion? Councilmember Yarborough.
Aye.
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 Motion passes 5-0 to accept the RFQ from Witham for the forensic audit.
Make a motion to approve Brooks, Watson and Co. for city auditor.
Second.
Have a motion from Councilmember Yarborough and a second from Councilmember Mize to accept Brooks, Watson and Company for the RFQ for the annual audit. Any further discussion?
Are we gonna go out for an RFQ every year, so it's not like last company where we just used them over and over and over?
We're required to do it, I think, every 5 years.
I mean, that's just them guarding their own in-house.
Yeah, I know we're required to do it every 5 years, and also with your depository too, so. If we can lock up with them for 5 years, at least we know for the next 5 years we're good. The problem was that we've had so much trouble finding auditors because they say that they don't have enough staff to do field work anymore. And that's where the problems were. That's what happened with the last time. I never got any response. And I sent them out. Not only did I advertise, but I sent them out to auditors that I know. And there was no way they could do it. They didn't have enough staff to go to the field. So,
They heard about it being ran.
Any further discussion? Councilmember Yarborough.
Aye.
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 Motion passes 5-0. Items of community interest. Saturday, the 23rd is Spring Fest. Are you gonna be there?
I'm the bunny.
Huh?
You're the
Oh.
bunny.
I mean, the bunny's gonna be there at 9 o'clock,
What time?
9 a.m. with a cup of coffee.
Any other items of community interest? There's no executive session. Any further business? This meeting is adjourned at 9:41. No, you gotta drive home yet.